Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the Airdrie City Council meeting to order for Monday, December the 7th. I'll start out by telling everybody that in the gallery that we just have to cover off a couple of things in case of an emergency. I want to remind everybody washrooms are located down the hallway, just to the left of where I'm sitting now. And that's not where Alderman Hunter's sitting, but further to the left over here. And in the event of a fire alarm, we need to evacuate council chambers. Exits are located to your right and the front doors, and to your left at the end of the hallway, which parallel council's chambers just beyond the bathrooms. And in the event of an evacuation, the council meeting obviously will be adjourned. I also want to start out by saying we haven't formally met since the passing of MLA Manmeet Bueller, and I just wanted to reiterate I was fortunate, along with Alderman Hunter, to attend his recent funeral, and it's amazing. He was probably the first minister we've had in my time as a mayor that actually came to our community and spent two and a half hours here, and that was unheard of with other ministries, and no disrespect to them, but this guy, when you called him, he was there. He met with all of our agencies. He spoke when he was Minister of Human Services. So with the deepest of respect, we'd like to show a brief moment of silence for Manmeet and his family, and recognize we truly have lost a great Albertan. Thank you. And I'll just close by saying there's a tremendous video on YouTube when he was first elected on the opportunities that exist for people, immigrants that come into this community, this country, and this province, and it's really worth a sit down and listen to. And as I said, he was truly a remarkable guy that's going to be so dearly missed. With that, we'll open up with minutes, item number 4, and I'll ask Alderman Hunter, please, for a motion.
Motion to adopt minutes of regular meeting, November 16th.
Excellent, thank you. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Oh, you're behind me. I see. There's somebody under your desk, Alderman Haig. I don't know what's going on down there. We should do these things before the council meeting starts, just so we know. 4.2, Deputy Mayor Billick, please.
Thank you, through the Chair. Acknowledgement of the Environmental Advisory Board of September 2nd, 2015, the Municipal Library Board of September 2015, and Municipal Planning Commission of October 15th, 2015.
Excellent, thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Always enjoy the library board minutes. There seem to be quite extensive. We have the consent agenda before us. Was there anything that anyone wanted to see? Well, sorry, there was only one item. It was 5.1. Did anyone want to see that? So, okay, Alderman Hunter. Alderman Haig, if you wouldn't mind making a motion to move that item 5.1 to, where are we moving that to, Sharon? Before appointments and presentations? Thank you. Let's deal with that right now then, please. Do we still need a motion to move it? Thank you. I'm assuming you'll be presenting? Sorry if there's questions. Thank you, Sharon. Go ahead, Alderman Hunter.
So just a point of clarification, it was, I believe, feasibility of taxi commission committee, and I'm a little gray on, so it was a good explanation as to the commission part, but it was a little light on the committee part and the advantages and pros and cons.
If I may, Your Worship, just to clarify, Alderman Hunter, you're just basically asking what the difference is between the committee and the commission, is that correct?
Right.
So a committee would very much operate as staff fill that role today. So where a commission actually has the ability to approve and have the authority to set, for instance, licenses, licensing, that type of thing, a committee would not. A committee would still need for it to come back to City Council to make that final decision.
So one would advise, the other would be an implementation?
Correct.
Right, okay, great.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, any further questions for Sharon on that item? Okay, can I get a motion then to receive that for information, please? Thank you. Alderman Haig's motion, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, Sharon. We are looking forward on appointments and presentations, 6.1. Alderman Hunter for introductions, please.
So Mayor Brown is going to introduce Mark and Lisa Honorat to speak about Haiti Arise Ministry.
Yes, I was supposed to announce that. You're making the motion, I apologize. So the introductions are there. Please come forward, have a seat. Welcome. Just hit the red button in the middle there on your microphone and we'll look forward to your presentation.
Good evening. I would like to thank you, Your Worship, and City Council for the opportunity to come and share with you tonight. My name is Mark Arnold, and my wife, Lisa, and our family have been residents of the city of Airdrie for the last 6 years. I am the founder and CEO of an organization called Haiti Arise, and tonight I would like to give you a brief overview of who we are and what we are about, in order to extend an invitation to our neighbors and fellow residents of Airdrie to be involved. I would like to give you a little bit of background of Haiti. Haiti is plagued with major political and economic issues that cause severe lack of education problem, which lead many families to believe a lie: if I give my child away to someone better off, they will have a better life and be able to go to school. So 55% of the Haitian population is illiterate. Unemployment in formal sectors is at 90%. 80% of Haitians live in poverty. For every 100 children, 40 will never go to school. Of the 60 children who do, only 42 will complete primary school. Only 20 of these children will attend secondary school. Only 5 students of the 20 will go on to graduate from high school. So we are working to raise Haiti out of this situation. So in the primary school, I mentioned it's from grade 1 to 6. So by Haiti Arise providing affordable school to our community, we help increase the likelihood for parents to keep their children in their homes. So in the last earthquake that happened in Haiti, there were so many schools destroyed. So we started our elementary school. So up to date, we have 445 students in school from grade 1 to grade 6. And in a nutshell, this is my life story. I was given away by my parents when I was 5. Come from a very big family, 15 children. So my parents, they were not able to take care of us, send us to school. So at 5 years old, they gave me away, and I became a slave child. I was physically abused and verbally abused. 7 years as a slave, and then when I turned 12, my brother came to visit and found out the way I was being treated and no schooling, he got me out and put me in a children's home. And for the first time in my life, I was able to go to school at 12 years old. And it was possible because to go to school because a family from Airdrie here had sponsored me and sent me to school. And that family is right here in the congregation here.
So to continue to serve the community, we are expanding our school. We right now have a temporary building that cannot hold any more students, and we want to continue to add grade levels so that we can retain students. We've started the construction of a new permanent building, and we will have one of three buildings so that we can go all the way up to high school. It's just a few pictures of the facilities, the kids at their lunchtime. Another big problem in Haiti, as Mark mentioned, is the problem of child slavery and people giving their children away. And in order for us to help provide a solution for this, we are developing a children's village to be able to bring in children that are at risk of this and put them into a family environment.
Growing up, I never experienced the love of my parents. Never give me a hug or a kiss to say that I love you. And knowing that there are children in that situation in Haiti, so we are establishing a village where we're creating a family environment where those children will have a mom and a dad looking after them, so they will be able to go to school. They will have parents that giving them a hug and a kiss. So when it's all done, this is some pictures of it there. We will be able to house 144 children at any given date. And we will be raising them to be leaders of the nations.
So we're not just about the problem of illiteracy and child slavery, but we're much more than that. We've been in active ministry for 12 years already and seeking to change the nation through raising up leaders. We've been doing this since 2003 through church, education, and community transformation projects. So we've got 3 local churches currently in Haiti, one in our community, and one in the mountains, and another children's church up in the mountains. But one of the first things we established back in 2003 was our technical and professional school, because in Haiti, education is very difficult, as you saw, and most young people don't get the opportunity to finish school, let alone learn a trade. So we wanted to start by giving them practical skills in all of those different kinds of trades you see. And currently up to date, we almost have 500 students in our school. So one of our purposes here tonight is we just want to offer the invitation to have more people come down as volunteers to help in teaching in our trade school when you have skills or other things that you can offer to give back to places like Haiti. There's a few pictures of the facility.
Another thing that we offer through our ministry is healthcare. So we really don't have healthcare in Haiti. 2 years ago, we established a medical clinic. So we run 5 days a week, seeing 1,000 patients a week and a month. So up to date, since 2 years, we have seen at least 25,000 patients providing health care for the communities and around. So here are some pictures of our medical clinic. And then another program that we have going is after the earthquake, we have so many families that lost their home, living under tents. So we have this program called Each One Build One, where we build houses for families throughout the communities and provide them a safe home that they can come to. And each home costs us between $5,000 to $7,000 to build home for those families. And the families, they have to own their own land, and also they have to help build their own homes and also help another homes for another family.
So as we said, also, we have lots of other community transformation projects that we do throughout our communities. We've drilled 22 water wells so far in the surrounding areas. We've distributed more than 3,000 Creole Bibles to churches, pastors, and throughout the prisons. We also have a goat farm project that we've started recently, giving goats to 5th graders and teaching them how to raise them so that they can perpetuate and help support their own families. And we also have like regular food, clothing, animal, other distribution projects. So again, like we said, our main goal today is to share what we're doing in Haiti and also provide an opportunity for Airdrie residents and our neighbors to get more involved. We would love for there to be more of a connection between Airdrie and Grand-Goave. We've really been blessed to be a part of the community of Airdrie, and so we are just looking for people that may be interested in wanting to come and be a part, coming down as a team, either with a church or business or a social group that maybe has skills they can help offer. And that also leads us to another thing that we are looking for or seeking as a possibility of possibly Airdrie and Grand-Goave becoming sister cities. Airdrie adopting Grand-Goave. And why we think this? There's many similarities with Airdrie and Grand-Goave. We both have an urban population that's very close. Majority of our population is young families. We're both very close to our major cities that are nearby, Calgary and Port-au-Prince. We both have Highway number 2 that runs through our cities, making us strategically located and accessible to surrounding rural and urban areas. We both have one urgent care health center and are well developed in agriculture and the arts and have a great sense of community and relative security. These are all things we really appreciate about Airdrie and about Grand-Goave.
So even though we have lots of similarities, there are also lots of big differences. So Grand-Goave is on the coast, situated on a major fault line, putting it at risk of earthquakes. The devastating 2000 earthquake epicenter was only 15 kilometers away from Grand-Goave. Grand-Goave is located at the foot of the mountain range that is highly deforested, making it vulnerable to erosion and flooding. Grand-Goave's underdevelopment of paved roads contribute to problem with rain and flooding. And on average annual income for Haitian is $1,300, with 80% of the population living off of $2 a day. Most Haitian residents depend on fishing, agriculture, and microbusiness. There is only one public school in Grand-Goave. 90% of all schools in Haiti are private, run by communities, religious organizations, or NGOs. In Grand-Goave, the earthquake of 2010 destroyed 9 schools, 6 churches, and 6 public buildings, including the city hall, police station, and hospital, and 90% of all homes. A lack of power makes commerce difficult with only 8 hours a day of city power. So that's where we would like to see if there is a possibility that Airdrie would adopt Grand-Goave. So we need your help. Though Grand-Goave has somewhat recovered from the earthquake, we still lack a lot to be a thriving city, like Airdrie is. And like we envision for our own town, something that Grand-Goave needs, like paved streets, public park with playground where parents can take their children or their family, marketplace development, soccer field development where the young people can go and play, soccer field development, clean water wells, library, ambulance, garbage truck, fire truck, wood access to the beach, tourism development.
So there's lots of problems in Grand-Goave that if they were experienced in Airdrie, they would probably be solved easily because we have the resources of expertise and also engineering. But in Haiti, it's not so. If Airdrie would be willing to adopt Grand-Goave as a sister city, and because HAITI Rise, we have many years of experience in development and managing our own projects, we're now in a position to provide the use of our organizational structure as a platform to enable technical and engineering investment in Grand-Goave, in the municipalities, in the structure and services. So there's lots of opportunities that exist with mentoring and helping in the development of our municipality. So we're just we're presenting this as an invitation and wanting to look at possibilities of what this would look like. We're not necessarily asking for funding, but just looking at a way that maybe we can help in the development of our city in Grand-Goave, while we also have the connection with Airdrie.
So with us, with HAITI Rise, our vision is not to give hands out to the people, but to give them hands up by giving them skill so they can go out in the community, back to their countries, and transform their own country. So we want to really take this time to thank your worship and the City Council for giving us this opportunity to come and present this project and this vision to you tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Lisa. Can you introduce the people who sponsored you from Airdrie?
Claire Wabert.
Sorry, can you speak in the microphone, Mark? We can't hear you.
Claire Wabert. She is my adopted mom. She sponsored me, sent me to school. She's right here.
That's awesome. Another example of someone taking a horrific experience and turning it into something great. So I had the opportunity to meet with Mark and Lisa and actually some other members of your team, and was so taken by the work that you're doing here in the community supporting this initiative that I thought it would be great to share with my council colleagues and also members of the media who are here, and at least bring some awareness to what you're trying to accomplish and the great things that you're doing. So I want to congratulate you and thank you on behalf of us. Was there any questions for Mark and Lisa? Okay, no, Alderman Hunter.
Yeah, just, I guess in reading that report, I'm seeing that 80% of the people subsist on $2 a day. Is that, I can't fathom that. That's less than a Starbucks coffee. It's just incredible. So I just point out to people what an incredible country of wealth that we're in right now. So if there are no further questions, I would like to make a motion for staff to come back with a report on the ways and means and feasibility of some type of partnership or adoption for HAITI Rise Ministries.
Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? 3 opposed, the motion's carried. Yes. Alderman Haig, Alderman Burley, and Alderman Colson. With that, thank you both. Appreciate you coming in again. Keep up the great work. And we'll look forward to getting some more information, see if there is a possibility of some sort of collaboration going forward.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Alderman Hunter, no, we already have a motion, so we're good. All right, from there we're at 6.2, and I'll ask Alderman Colson for introduction, please.
I believe we're going to hear from Dorian, but I don't, oh, there she is. Come on up, Dorian. She's going to give us our financial indicators of 2014.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. Wow. I had a big presentation planned, but after that, I'm kind of going, yeah, we got the indicators. We're incredibly fortunate. Let's move on. But we'll present away. All right. I had the pleasure of speaking with my daughter yesterday, and she's a grade 1 teacher. She was busy preparing report cards. And it's that time of year here for us as well, as we pull together data to assess the city's performance as part of our accountability back to council and to residents. We like to do some checks and balances from the customer's perspective, the financial perspective, and our own internal process perspective. The financial indicators from the province are a key part of that information. I've not used this one before, Sharon.
No, I was just about took the battery out. Thank you.
Thank you. There we go. So this evening I will speak a bit about how Airdrie compares with its peers, value for residents and efficiencies in operations, and concern for the potential impact to residents just based on some of the trends we're seeing. Aligned with the guiding principle in Airdrie 1 of fiscal balance, Council has tasked administration with running a fiscally sustainable city. It's a challenging balancing act. In a time where the province and many of our own residents are feeling the impacts of declining oil prices on their lives, the city still needs to provide residents with the services and amenities that they've come to expect and enjoy, not just next year, but in the long term as well. The municipal affairs indicators are a great check for us because they're prepared from the data from the 2014 audited financial returns, 2014 being the most recent full year available. It provides us with objective third-party information that's put together by the province. All costs referred to are per person, and the comparison group that we choose to put ourselves against is the other Alberta mid-sized cities, as their business complexity and services most closely mirror the evolution that Airdrie's at in its state. So how are we doing? The 2014 indicators suggest Airdrie residents receive increasingly exceptional care. From a variety of sources, residents and businesses rated satisfaction, safety, customer service, and quality of service high, while paying taxes 39% lower per capita than residents of those other mid-sized cities. In fact, the lowest taxes of all 14 Alberta cities, and Calgary and Edmonton are not included in this data. We don't receive that. The 5-year trend lines are the focus of the next couple of slides. These are interpreted as both a benefit to residents today and a bit of a warning for the future. This gap has expanded from 31% to 39% in the last 5 years. Airdrie's taxes per person over that time increased an average 1.5% per year. That figure doesn't account for inflation, which, much like our household funds, erodes the purchasing power of $1 over time. Consider that the Consumer Price Index for Calgary was 10% over that same time frame. The increase per capita in real dollars then is effectively below zero. As the other significant revenue stream to help serve the city, Airdrie is now collecting 53% less revenue per person from sales and user charges. And that consists of things like building permits, licenses, registration fees at Genesis Place, things like that. Cities fund operations from a combination of property taxes, grants, and sales and user charges. While Airdrie generates a similar proportion of its revenue from property taxes, which is the first 2 bars on the left, Airdrie is the gold bar, and the median for the municipality group is the gray bar. The blue bar is the maximum. One municipality at least is running at those levels. Other municipalities rely significantly more on sales and user charges as well, which is the group on the right. Every resident, even children, drive demand for services and amenities. In spite of relying less on sales and user charges, as we are, Airdrie residents pay substantially lower taxes while receiving much the same suite of services as the other mid-sized cities. Another key part of the story in keeping taxes low is efficiency. The city spends less per resident in virtually every major expense category. This shows that time, effort, and cost are being well used in getting the job done for residents. In this graph, Airdrie is the gold bar, and that it captures major expenditures by broad function. A little tough to read, but left to right: general government, protective services, transportation, environment, recreation, and the total. The gap in total spending has increased from 35% last year to 37% now. And this gap points to efficiency and to the effectiveness of administration and council in monitoring budgets and spending. And rather than put up every graph, which you have in your package before you, I thought I'd just pull out a few and speak to them. In 5 years, Airdrie's debt per capita has increased 1%. And much of this debt funds expansion to road networks and the addition of new or enhanced amenities for residents. For salaries, wages, and benefits, 5 years ago, the gap for personnel costs was 30%, and it's now widened to 40%. That speaks to efficiencies as well as staff reevaluate processes and priorities as volumes increase and capacity diminishes. When personnel costs are lower, sometimes that's offset by contracting services out, which is the third point up there. However, that's not the case, and the gap remains significant here as well. On the last point that I have there, attention to spending would be the story with materials, goods, supplies, and utilities. While we have little control over utilities, we do have a 4% increase over 4 years in that entire category. Again, pointing to diligence through the city's budget process, creativity in keeping costs down, and council's governance. However, the ever-increasing gap, now at 67% lower than the median, begs the question of, are we doing everything that we need to be? Airdrie 1 targets, asset management initiative, and reviewing the fiscal framework with council will help assist in determining that. Drawn from other data from municipal affairs, Airdrie's population per full-time position is 85% higher than the average for the mid-sized cities. Given that wages are regularly monitored to ensure that we're competitive, this would seem to indicate that Airdrie's able to deliver a similar suite of services to residents with a significantly leaner workforce. That gap has climbed steadily from 55% in 2009 to 85% in 2014, and it's likely to continue with Airdrie's 7% growth this year. In many ways, as oil revenue is to the province, growth is to Alberta. Revenues from growth have helped the city keep costs and taxes low for many, many years. Much like Albertans wondering how the province will maintain services and keep taxes reasonable with the losses in oil revenues, and on my way over here, I heard they're even hitting new lows. Administration is increasingly concerned that a similar scenario could unfold for our residents if growth were to drop off significantly. The costs and expectations of running a municipality continue to escalate. As the gaps continue to widen between Airdrie and the other mid-sized cities in our group, it poses a significant worry for the future. If all municipalities provide essentially the same services, are Airdrie's taxes fair relative to the cost of those services? And will we have the ability to continue to sustain them without burdening residents with major tax increases down the road? This is an identified risk, and one I'm pretty sure keeps Paul and Lucy up at night sometimes. We've compiled a new Look Closer graphic that provides a summary at a glance, and this is basically combining the figures that were in your little shopping bag graphic last year from communications. In light of the current economic pressures impacting our community, staff is pleased to be able to demonstrate alignment with council's direction and continue to provide our residents with quality services at well below average cost. So just to recap, the conclusions we draw from the data are high satisfaction with services, low taxes, and efficiencies demonstrated by the ever-widening gap suggest exceptional value for residents. With spending already very low, it will be an increasing challenge to provide accustomed levels of service if growth were to level off and revenues are too tight to continue to fund operations. There is a concern on our radar that Airdrie may be falling too far behind. And I'd be happy to try and answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorian. Questions from council? Sorry, Alderman. Nope. There's no way they're not going to say anything. But I think the challenge sometimes when you see these graphics is we're not always comparing apples and apples, right? So different communities have different levels of service, they have different infrastructure, they have different recreational facilities, all those different things. But just seeing the numbers and knowing how efficient we do operate our business, obviously on behalf of myself and council, significant congratulations to Paul and his directors and the team for providing the same. So just a sincere congratulations. And as Lucy knows, we met the other day with Paul just to kind of, okay, where are we now and what do we need to be, how do we need to be prepared for the future? Because we have lots of great plans ahead of us, and obviously we have to pay for those plans. So I just want to thank you, Dorian, for providing this information, and we definitely understand what a great job you're doing, and the rest of the team, so thank you. Alderman Coulson, please.
So I guess I'll make my motion, but first I just wanted to say that this is a great night, of course, to hear our financial indicators with the budget coming up. I'm just concerned at myself at how much longer we can allow those gaps to widen with the possibility of growth slowing down in Airdrie, what that's going to look like for us moving forward. But we don't have a crystal ball, so we can't predict those things. So without further ado, I'd like to make the motion that we accept this report for information.
Excellent. Thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Dorian.
Thank you.
Not sure why I put that in there. Okay, we are now at the point, item number 7. This is a public question period, and invite any members of the public. Please come forward. Don't be nervous. Don't be shy. Welcome. Absolutely. You can just provide Sharon with whatever you'd like to present to council, and will distribute it for you.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. My name is Mohammed Benini. I live on 800 Yankee Valley Boulevard. Your Worship, I was here July 6th to ask the city to look into a taxi committee and not a taxi commission, just because as an industry, we don't know when the next day the city is gonna come up with amendments to the bylaw. We have no dates when changes to the bylaw comes. It's been 5 years, not even one recommendation has been brought forward by city staff from the industry. It's only what city staff believes that has come forward to council. And after July, Uber came out, city council did nothing, city staff did nothing. Uber was operating illegally in Airdrie, and if it wasn't for a Calgary judge who put a temporary injunction on Uber would still be operating illegally in Airdrie. For the past 3 months, there has been a company in Airdrie that has been given $5 and $6 off every ride, and this is against the taxi bylaw. However, there hasn't been a fine from city staff to that company, even though that company has been contradicting the bylaw. So I believe that the bylaw is, city staff chooses what to enforce in the bylaw and who to enforce it on. I have 2 trials tomorrow, 1 first appearance. I have an appeal on Wednesday. I waste my time in court just for bylaw purposes. So I'm here again to ask the city to make a motion to deregulate the taxi industry. There's 90% of the taxi industry has signed the petition there's only one owner that hasn't signed, and that's other than that, every single owner and most drivers have signed that we don't want a taxi bylaw, we want a free market. And by deregulating the taxi bylaw does not mean that it's not going to be safe for Airdrie residents. There's the RCMP here to provide safety. There's Alberta transportation laws that say how taxis should be operated, and they provide safety province-wide. Thank you.
Sorry, you finished, Mr. Benini?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll respectfully disagree with you on nothing gets done here. I know that we've met with the industry for sure in the last, I know Mark's out there somewhere, but we just recently met with the industry. It was very well attended, lots of great information sharing. I know Alderman Hunter had a meeting with the industry as well. Again, a very positive outcome from those meetings. As far as the committee, I really believe that right now, everything that I've seen from Colleen and her team and Mark, and council can concur with me, is that they have, and when they make recommendations, they consult with the industry first. It's not like we're pulling it out of thin air and suggesting we do things. It's a reasonable approach. They talk to people, and the majority of people were in an agreement after the last meeting. So I'm not questioning the petition, other than I guess I would ask Mark to come forward, because the assessment after the last meeting was that the majority of people at the taxi meeting that we held, if you could elaborate, Mark, and just give us some of the details from our end, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Your Worship, can I just say one thing? Can you just tell me one recommendation in the past 5 years that has come, and I will no longer come to the public question period? Just one recommendation that...
Sorry, the recommendation from our staff?
No, recommendation from the industry, not from the staff.
Specifically, as of tonight, with budget on my mind, I can't specifically recall, but I'd certainly, Mark would be able to elaborate a little bit better than myself, but whenever you're ready, Mark, please.
Through the chair, as you indicated, we have had a number of meetings with the taxi industry as of late. I'd say 2 in the last month and a half. I guess I have not seen this petition. In fact, that would be very different than the flavor that we garnered at the last meeting, where I think the essence was that the bylaw not be disbanded and that we keep the bylaw in there, the intention being for the safety of our residents. There has been a number, I'd say a couple of amendments since the bylaw was put in place. Off the top of my head, I can't elaborate as to which they are, but like any bylaw, once it's been enforced or put in place, usually there's some modifications or tweaks that has to occur over the passage of time. And again, a lot of times it's based on
respect for your determination.
And I'm not saying anything different. The only thing is nothing has been done.
No, and I have to, sorry, you're up with your 5 minutes, so I have to cut you off. But I just want to tell you that if whatever rules are in place to keep our community safe, then they have to apply to everybody who wants to be in that industry. And I'm hoping those are the recommendations that are going to come back. But I don't want to presuppose the presentation or what Mark's bringing forward. So unfortunately, at this time, there is no, I don't think there's any support for a committee or a commission at this time. I know at least I don't think there's any support for deregulating the taxi industry at this time. I think we want to walk forward. We'll wait for the Uber presentation. It's only 30 days away or less. And then we can make a good decision from there. If that, hopefully that answers your question. Alderman Hunter, you have a comment, please.
Yeah, just so in the engagement that I partook of at both meetings, the word I was getting was that the bylaw serves some purpose. There was a little bit of misunderstanding as to the do's and don'ts of it, but the consensus typically was we could put some changes forward, we could amend it, et cetera, but I didn't hear anybody asking to get rid of it, and everybody, so my purpose was to get a sense of, outside of the Uber and all those people pieces, what the issue was. And the thing that I came away with was that there is a feeling out there that some people in the industry feel that the bylaw should be used to beat one another over the head in regards to competition and how people gain market share, et cetera. And I made it very clear, and I think Mark's staff did as well, that that was not the purpose of the bylaw or city staff's time. It was to make sure that it was safe for the citizens that use it, safe for the drivers, and I believe that the consensus I got was that it was doing that, and that yes, they'll still have conversations and communication. A lot of the drivers spoke that they were making decent money. There wasn't a huge impact from Uber, so the things that I took away from both those meetings were quite contradictory to what I see in this petition. Thank you.
Okay. And finally, Mark, he is correct in the fare rate being lower than what the bylaw allows for. Have we made attempts to contact that organization, and have we written any tickets?
Yes, we have had a meeting with that particular business. He's been made aware that it is contravention of the bylaw, even though I guess it's commendable in terms of the economy as of late. But staff are aware, and we will be enforcing the bylaw as per your direction.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Benini.
Thank you, Your Worship, and happy holidays.
Yes, same to you, sir, and your family. All the very best. Anyone else here who'd like to come forward? You're welcome to come on up. Ask any question of council. Derek, you love to talk. Are you sure you don't want to come up? No, you're going to stay down. Okay. All right, from there, we'll move on. So there are no public hearings tonight. And we're moving on to bylaws. And I will ask Alderman Haig for introductions, please.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to ask Monica to come forward and talk to us about bylaw number B48, please.
Your Worship, members of council, thank you. I'm here today to ask for the second and third reading for bylaw B48 2015 as well as B49 2015, and these relate to Airdrie housing and the construction of a mixed-use building. So it's the debenture to be pulled for partial payment of this construction, as well as a loan to Airdrie housing of those funds in order to construct the building. If you had any questions or concerns.
Sorry about that, Monica. Okay. I don't know if we do or not. Yes, Alderman Hunter, please.
Yeah, I guess having missed the last one, the question I'd like to ask, and maybe it isn't of Monica, but do we have letters of intent or leases in place for the commercial component for this facility?
Yes, we do. We have a long-term tenant that we have secured as part of the space rent on the second floor. But as for the actual commercial portion on the first floor, not to my knowledge, but I would have to double check with Shelley Sweet on that portion.
Could we speak to what percentages?
Sorry to interrupt. Just a point of clarification on the second floor suite. And I know either Alderman Burley or Mr. Schultz would just like to add something to your comment. Please, Monica.
Through your worship, I know there has been some paperwork and commitment with Community Links, but I think they're still in design stage. They're still talking, and I'm not aware to the level you're looking at, which is a MOU or commitment letter at this point. I would draw your attention, though, that it is a debenture bylaw, so it wouldn't be drawn upon until such time that they're ready to go ahead with the actual construction.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just add the anticipated time for them gathering the information. Alderman Burley is, we're talking Community Links specifically.
We hope to know more this month at our meeting, our AGM this month. But as well, the building will be scaled down if Community Links is not part of it. That's part of the options we have on Airdrie housing. So once we get the final commitment from Community Links, we'll be going ahead with the full bore building, because that's a long-term tenant with a long-term lease that will make the building sustainable.
Alderman Coulson.
Thank you. I apologize, Alderman Burley, if I'm putting you on the spot with information you may not know yet, but it was my understanding that with the 18 units that they can now fit in that rental units, low-income rental units, that would pay for the debenture payments?
Not totally, no.
Not totally?
Not totally, no. No.
Does it get us anywhere near close? Is it 50%? Is it 75%?
I can't tell you what the exact amount will be until we see what the debenture rates will
Okay.
be.
Okay, thank you.
And Lucy, if you wanted to comment, or you're fine with the response, okay, perfect. Sorry, Alderman Hunter.
Yeah, just so, to my original question, what percentage of the commercial space, so we talked about there's a big significant piece in the second floor. What percentage other than community links is actually a done deal or close to a done deal? Is it 30%, 40%, 50%?
So it's 12,000 per floor, correct? Square feet?
The second floor will be slightly larger. It's going to have an overhang.
Okay, and community links probably will extend into the lower floors?
The lower floor as well.
Because they don't have enough room on the second one, so. And sorry, Michelle, it was 12, right? We talked about 12,000 square feet. So, but there is no commitments on the commercial space as of yet, no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? And I will say to the audience, if you didn't know, Airdrie Housing Limited is actually owned by the city of Airdrie. We have a great opportunity to borrow money at a long-term rate. So rates are very low. I don't know what the 25-year debenture will be, but we expect it to be certainly under 4% for that period of time. Exceptional rates that probably will not be there for much longer. So we could go to the banks and borrow the money, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be us on the hook for it. So we figure we can control our own destiny, and it's certainly well within our debt limits to support this debenture. But those are just my comments. Anything else for Monica and or Lucy? Okay. With that, Alderman Haig, please.
Thank you, Worship. Then I'd like to move second reading.
So I don't like aging for these glasses, I can tell you that. Yeah, they are new glasses, but. Okay, so we're moving second reading. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. Sharon, do we need to be unanimous in third? We do not, correct? Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Alderman Hunter was opposed. And Deputy Mayor Bellick, please.
Thank you, through the chair. Third reading of bylaw number B48, 2015.
Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? Alderman Hunter is opposed. The motion's carried. Thank you both. We are moving on to, where are we?
We're
on.
Mayor Brown, if we can
Yes.
interrupt just for a minute.
Yes, absolutely,
We
Lucy,
just
go
wanted
ahead.
to confirm, I believe there's two bylaws there, and I just want to ensure that you're good. Oh, it's coming up next. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's coming next.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, we're still on 9.1B. Good, thought I was hanging on a string there. Alderman Chapman, please.
Your Worship, I don't believe there's any more explanation to that loan bylaw, is there, from staff? So at this point, I'd like to move second reading of bylaw B49, 2015.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor? Sorry, Alderman Hunter, were you in favor? Oh, your hand went up. So all those opposed? One being opposed. Alderman Burley, please.
Just before I make the motion, Your Worship, I just want to make a quick comment. What this will do is provide 18 more units for affordable housing in Airdrie, as well, and I still believe it's a when, not an if. When Community Links join us, it'll give them a sustainable lease rate for a long term, which is good for the community as a whole. I mean, Community Links, when they have to renew every 5 years, there could be issues. We're going to have a signed agreement that when they renew, they'll know what the costs will be. So it'll be set and specific costs for them, so they'll have sustainability, so they can build their budgets around it. So I'm proud to make a motion for third reading, Your Worship, of bylaw B49, 2015.
Thank you, Alderman Burley. Sorry, Alderman Hunter, yep.
Just point of clarification, I absolutely support affordable housing, but my concern is that if we don't have some pretty solid commercial tenants, your operating costs are still going to be incurred if you have vacant space. And so as much as I want to do the housing piece of it, the other piece to me is very important as well. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know, just because you're opposed, I never thought that at all, Alderman Hunter. And I'd just add, with community links, the piece of affordable housing is many times people are in a challenging situation. We don't want them to stay. We want them to get the tools, provide them the tools if they so wish. Having community links in the building to support those individuals and to give them a helping hand if that's in fact what they need. It's a great marriage. It's also walking distance from our other significant properties on the east side. Again, providing that level of service, level of care. It's a great location. So yes, I'm looking forward to supporting this as well. And I think financially, again, this is a very prudent way to go about it, and I believe the board is doing a good job in managing this process. And in fact, if things change and the economy changes, that we can regroup. We can decide whether or not we're going to do 3 floors, 2 floors, 1 floor. Correct, Alderman Burley?
Yes.
So we can always scale back.
And without this bylaw, Airdrie Housing still would have went forward to the banks, and we had rates in place that we would have signed contracts with the banks. Going through the city, though, allowed a lower interest rate for Airdrie Housing, which is a benefit to everybody.
Absolutely. Okay. So we're on third reading, and I'll call again all those in favor. All those opposed? One being opposed, the motion's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies. Item number 10. Yes, we're okay, right? Everybody's okay before, do you want to take a break now? Let's take a 5-minute recess and then we'll get into the meat of tonight's presentations. I'd like to call the meeting back to order, please. We are on item number 10, financial position, and I'll ask Alderman Chapman for introductions, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this point, I'd like to ask Lucian Pelkey to speak to us regarding the 2016 to 2018 operating budget and 2016-2025 capital budget.
Thank you. So good evening, Mayor Brown and members of council. This evening, council is being asked to approve a city budget for 2016. So just to provide a bit of context before we begin, I wanted to touch base on the budget process and point out the stage that we are currently at. The administration proposed budget was presented to the Council Budget Committee, and that was on November 2nd, 2015. Post that, the committee spent 2 days deliberating the operating budget and has compiled a recommendation to come forward to council. Spent 2 days deliberating operating, and we spent another 2 days deliberating capital. So during this evening, council will be asked to approve the 2016 capital and operating budget. An approved budget will allow the city to get on with operations for the new year and begin the process for our major infrastructure, vehicles, and equipment needs for 2016. So for my presentation this evening, I will provide the information related to the recommendations coming from Council's Budget Committee. Items 2 and 3, and looking to our future projections and the Alberta municipal benchmarks, are here to ensure that Council is up to date on all new pieces of information that are relevant to the budget process. And I'll go over the alternatives and the recommendation, and I'll go over the alternatives and the implications, and then the recommendations that are being put forward to council this evening. So moving from administrative proposed to council's budget committee recommendation for the 2016 operating budget. As the committee deliberated the budget, a number of changes were made. So first up on the revenue side, the projections for franchise fees were revised by an additional $200,000. Our MSI operating grant was added in, and this was post the budget announcements from the province. Building inspection revenue was adjusted downward to reflect the weakening economy. And the committee reduced the revenue proposed to be received from taxes by $455,000. On the expense side, the number of amendments, the committee directed a 0.5 percentage point of new tax revenue to be transferred to reserves, and that is to be used to offset future tax increases. CBC asked staff to reduce the proposed budget by $191,000, and that was done by reducing 2.1 FTE, reducing the contingency, parks goods, and dollars allocated to a land strategy. CBC also recommended removing the cost of living increase associated with council remunerations, and that totaled $2,583, which brings us to the recommended operating budget of $119,789,941. Very large number and very much increased over our number of years, and just speaks to the amount of growth over the last 5-10 years. So moving on to capital, and the administration proposed to the council budget committee recommended on the capital side. We had 3 capital budgets that were deferred to 2017, and the last change to this particular budget relates to the difference in that initial estimate for the Nose Creek Regional Park enhancement to the revised amount that came forward to council later on in the process. The recommended 2016 capital budget is $56,184,226, and overall not a large change from the dollar value that came forward from proposed to recommended. So the next slide, we've updated this slide to show how the 2.5% tax revenue increase will affect that average resident. When we look at an average residential property, as shown here, with some stable assessed value, they will typically see an increase of $40.32 a year or $3.36 a month increase, and that's in their property taxes. So next, just taking a look beyond 2016. So for best practices tells us that planning for future is critical to the well-being of a community. Municipalities are encouraged to include projections over the long term during budget processes, and in fact, pending changes to the Municipal Government Act will make a minimum of 3 years operating budgets and 5-year capital budgets mandatory for all communities in Alberta. These changes are expected to see final readings in this coming spring. As part of the resolution this evening, Council will be asked to accept for information the 2017 and 2018 operating budget projections and the 2017 to 2025 capital budget plan. The long-range capital plan does signify a growing city, and it's important to keep in mind that connection between that capital and that operating plans. The facilities needed for our future community will result in a need for additional operating dollars. Revenue to cover those additional costs will need to be sourced in order to stay balanced. The projections for 17 and 18 do not look positive, however, show some significant gaps. And I'll just remind Council at this point, so during some of our budget discussions, we did talk about our current economic situation, and the projections that we put in there for 2017 and 18 still poses the projections for growth may be, and that associated revenue, there may be some risk there in what was projected out for 17 and 18, and which means that some of these deficits that we're showing right now may even grow further. Our future capital budgets include a number of civic facilities, which will see additional operating costs hit our budgets in 2019 and beyond, and these include such buildings as new libraries, civic centers, and 4th Fire Hall. And just lastly, we always want to ensure that we're testing that citizens receive good value for money and tax increases are reasonable. We do that first up by always running our analysis around what that typical increase will look for our average residents. We've talked about this slide already. This year, what we have done, oh, I'm sorry, this is the wrong slide that I have up here. I wanted more so to be referring to the graph that's in your package that relates to how rolling together the tax revenue and the utility changes. So we've also included a number of pieces of information in your agenda report that looks at Airdrie taxation over and compares it over a number of committees. We try to provide more of a holistic picture so that that effect on the resident, both for those utility taxes, utility costs and tax costs, were rolled up together. Okay. And just lastly, the Alberta municipal benchmarks are also a good gauge. When and if these provincial benchmarks are released prior to our budget process, staff ensures that council is provided with this information so you can consider it along with all the other pieces that have come forward during our budget process. City of Airdrie has always worked hard to keep expenditures in check, and that speaks to the lowest per capita cost as pictured here. Moving on to our alternatives, implications, and recommendations. So 3 alternatives have been included for Council's consideration. Council can accept the recommendations of Council's Budget Committee and approve the 2016 operating and 2016 capital budgets as presented. Staff will move forward to begin implementing the plans for 2016. Council may choose to amend the recommendations coming from Council's Budget Committee, and the third alternative would be to table the recommendations, table the budget coming from Council's Budget Committee. I do believe that all the Council is aware of the requirement to have a 2016 budget approved prior to year end, and if there isn't one, usually what that looks like is adopted the 2015 budget. The recommendations put forth to Council is twofold. Council, the recommendation coming from staff is that City Council endorse the recommendations of Council's Budget Committee to adopt the 2016 operating budget of $119 million and the 2016 capital budget of almost $56 million. And that City Council accept the 2017 to 18 operating plan and the 2017 to 2025 capital plans for information. And this concludes this section of my presentation, and our CAO, Mr. Schultz, would like to put forward some final comments at this point in time.
Paul, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Worship. I just thought this would be my opportunity before you enter into debate, and just thank Lucy and appreciate Council for allowing me some time to give some opening remarks. First of all, I wanted to thank staff. This budget has become a year-long process. What people are seeing tonight actually probably started last year around March. So we're only 3 months away from starting it all over again. And by the time it goes through the various iterations, of course, we put that fine-tooth comb to it. But I was really pleased this year because I think staff came to the table, and I believe we're looking for, I call it striking a balance, managing a really high-growth community, and recognizing the uncertain times that we're in. And so as the Chief Administrative Officer, I just wanted to let you know that I really believe the budget recommendations that came both to the Council Budget Committee and at your table this morning are responsible. Three reasons. There's probably a lot more than that, and I'm probably going to reiterate a little what you've heard already. But one, on the expenditure side, and I've stated before to this group, revenues aside, you have to look at expenses. I think we look very closely at that as an organization, and this budget, I think, is a great indicator of sustainable business practice in that expenditures are rising well below growth plus inflation, which I think is a measure of any business. Secondly, and you've heard the indicators, our citizens, which we survey every year, are telling us they really value the services that are provided, and our benchmark indicators are saying that we're providing them in a fashion that keeps Airdrie at the lowest end of mid-sized cities, both in terms of expenditure and taxes, and if anything, that gap is increasing. And thirdly, the proposed revenue increases in front of you and in your staff report. Our taxes are very favorable, but our revenue sources as well are very, very favorable in that we continue to be below communities. And if you look around at recent tax increase announcements, certainly what's being proposed by Council's Budget Committee is well within the ballpark that others are seeing. So I do believe overall city staff are providing the residents with services they value in a cost-efficient method. Finally, I guess I want to thank City Council and their role on the Budget Committee. It's our second year in a brand new process, and I thought this year lots of great information, lots of questions, lots of excellent dialogue. And I think citizens should feel very satisfied that budget documents were well vetted and well reviewed. And I congratulate and only look forward to even a better process in the upcoming years. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Lucy. So just for members of the audience who don't know, Council Budget Committee is made up of our council. This is the second year we've operated that way. So there was a lot of deliberation. We met for I don't know how many hours, Lucy. Can you remind me? It was certainly 4 days, I think.
4 days. I don't
4
recall the
days in
number of
total.
hours, but 4 days.
Yeah, we try not to think about how many hours, but no, it's probably 32 hours would be my guess. So there's a lot of detail that was vetted, a lot of information. We had murals all over the board of certain areas that we wanted to attack. The vote was 4-3, I believe, and for various reasons from different individuals didn't support it. And I'm sure you'll hear some of that commentary tonight. But with that, I will open it up to council members to comment, to make any recommendations as it relates to what's being presented, and we'll continue on from there. So I'll open up the floor. Alderman Haig.
So don't we want a motion before we to amend?
I don't think we need a motion to amend yet. I'd be interested to hear what everybody thinks and what you're recommending. I got to see a few people. Look forward to some commentary and just have a general debate, discuss what's in front of us, and then we can put forward a motion. Whenever you're ready, Alderman Haig, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Worship. I think a lot has been said. If you had the chance to catch the exciting debate that happened on the YouTube sessions, in those sessions, we did broadcast those over YouTube, and I think they are still available if you want to go back and check it out in terms of what we looked at. Again, it's been one of Council's strategic priorities that financial austerity, I guess you could say, is a part of that. I think staff came to us with a lean budget and lean recommendations. We looked at a couple of other things as well too, and found some places where there might be a need or a perceived need on behalf of the citizens of Airdrie at this time, decided to just hold off a little bit due to the economic uncertainty that surrounds us. And again, if we had a crystal ball, that would be wonderful, and we could make some decisions based on an increased revenue flow. So I'm confident that we're where we are because we put the work into vetting everything, all the asks, and that these are in fact needs on behalf of our staff to do their job and needs to meet the needs of the citizens of Airdrie. So thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Alderman Haig. Sorry, Alderman Chapman, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to echo Alderman Haig's comments. We did spend the time to vet this budget. It's never an easy thing to do. There's always a list of wants and needs. I think what we've gone forward with is the needs. Some of the wants that were there, they were wants, but they weren't so much the needs. So I'm fully prepared to support the Council Budget Committee's recommendation.
Excellent, thank you.
If we wanted, we wouldn't be at the 2.5% proposed. The challenge that we have is we have two other levels of government that we've just begun to see the opening acts. We have no idea what that impact's going to have, not only in the country, but in the province and in the city. And I'm mindful of what we do here at this level is going to impact one of the youngest communities in Alberta. And the challenge that I have with the process is there are pieces of it that I think are absolutely necessary. I fully support getting 8 more police officers, boots on the grounds into this community. Lots of uncertainty, lots of issues to resolve there. There are other areas where I'm struggling with talking about bringing people's salaries up to a more acceptable range when, and tonight and yesterday and others I'm hearing of citizens across this city and across this province that are losing their jobs. It puts it into perspective, and Honorats couldn't have come at a better time when they talk about people living on $2 a day, and we're talking about these are the needs of our city. Really put that in perspective for me. So are they needs? Well, yeah, in a sense, but to me, needs are safety, security, food, those types of things. Anything upstream of that is about choices and about choices that we make for our citizens. And so, if I could support pieces of it, I would certainly do that. In principle, I know I've got a pretty good sense of where it's going to go, but in principle, when people across this province are losing their jobs and some 2 in one household, again, as much as I respect all of the hard work and the great work done by the employees of the city of Airdrie, I work for the citizens of Airdrie, and the citizens are the taxpayers, and I have to be mindful of trying to make a decision for the least of those in our community, the ones that can least afford. And it doesn't sound like much, $3.26 I think was an average number used, but to someone on a fixed income or someone whose income has drastically dropped, that's significant. It's very large. And so, as much as I would like to...
You would like to see 8 officers rather than 6. And based on, I guess I'll give you my piece on that. Lucy, if you can write down, let's deal with the RCMP officers first. I fully support 8 after reviewing all the detailed information and understanding that the challenges that are directly related to the financial uncertainty are creating problems in the community. We've seen a rise in a number of things that honestly I've not seen here in Airdrie. I believe it's the right thing to do. It's the right timing to have these boots on the ground. We've already made that request. It's 2 more officers. I think we can live with that. I think that the community, it's a good time to have it there, and it certainly supports that in our estimation, it's always been that community safety is number 1, and if that's the case, then we really should be supporting them with 8 officers. So I definitely support Alderman Hunter on that. I believe Alderman Bellick is supportive 8, so there's 3. I don't know. I'd certainly like to hear from everybody else as it relates to this. We do have Gord here to answer any questions, but that's my personal opinion. And anyway, Alderman Haig first, and if anybody else would like to comment, Alderman Colson, please.
Thank you, Worship. I would support 8 if that was the ask. The ask, I believe, when Inspector Sage came to talk to us and present to the Budget Committee was for 6. And so that's why the budget was set at that amount.
Okay, Alderman Colson, please.
So I've recently had the pleasure to join the Police Advisory Committee. I've also sat down and spoken with Gord Sage personally, just to get a little bit more background on how the 8, 8, and 8 ask was coming forward as far as strategies goes. And I think that this year is a great year to add back those 2 officers. I know that we had spoken about feeling the pressures to cut back and keep those tax increases a little bit lower, but regardless, crime is here, it's continuing to rise, whether it's perceived on social media and blown out of proportion or it's actually happening as it's reported. So I will be supporting the addition of 2 officers as well, and I think that this is the year that we could even possibly catch ourselves up a bit more, but I'll go with the 8 because that's what was originally suggested from our MPAC.
That's a long acronym. I didn't know, Gord, was that MPAC? Sorry, Alderman Bellick, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, as a response to Alderman Haig's comment about the ask was 6. Last year, the strategy was in place for 8, 8, and 8. Yes, the ask was for 6 this year, but the Municipal Policing Advisory Board took another vote at the last meeting, and they supported the 8, 8, and 8. So there's a bit of a gap there between council's perception and what the actual ask was for, but I would stick by the 8, 8, and 8 because we've got to keep, as Alderman Hunter says, got to keep our foot to the floor and keep these one step ahead of the criminal element in Airdrie or coming to Airdrie from Calgary.
Your Worship.
Alderman Chapman, please.
You know, I would support 8 officers as well, but I would like to know what the budget implications are for those 8 officers. And also I'd like to hear, and I don't know if we can, from Inspector Gord Sage. He did come to us and ask for 6 officers, and I would still like to hear what he would have to say this evening.
Yes, Mr. Schultz is going to provide some context, and if you still want to hear from Mr. Sage, he's here to answer those questions. Thank you. Paul.
Through the chair, just to provide overall context in relation to police committee recommendation, which was for 8, and that of the budget committee, and we, as I mentioned, we thoroughly vet every department, and trying to strike that balance, we went not just to police, but to every business unit and said, what's critical this year, what's important, and this is that getting into need-want discussion. And I can tell you staff requests, when they first came to myself on all other departments, were in the neighborhood of 32 to 34. And of course, I think council's quite aware we brought them under 20. I think it was 18 or 17. And that's because leaders in those various business units brought what they thought was critical. Same question was asked to our contracted service provider and Inspector Sage. And it was at that time that he stated that 6 were critical, 8 are important, so there's no denying that. And therefore that formed a part of staff's budget recommendation to council, and that's, so when we hear that's what was asked for, I just wanted to provide that context so all of council is clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Gord? Mr. Locking, of course, you're welcome to come up.
Through the chair, as was mentioned, Bishop did say 6 are critical and the other 2 are important. Now, when I come to that decision, I monitor crime trends on a monthly basis. I have my finger on the pulse, and unfortunately with policing, we're at the discretion of the criminal, and it's very hard to predict future crime trends because what I can predict today will probably change tomorrow. So there is certainly a guess in there, but what we have seen clearly is that domestic violence has increased dramatically from last year, almost double what it was last year. Other areas, crime to property crime has gone up significantly. Areas that have gone down are, minorly was crimes against persons and motor vehicle accidents. I think that's because of the great weather we've had, but what those extra 2 members would provide, it would provide another police officer on the road 50% of the time. So the area that causes us grief today, and it has been consistent all summer, is the car prowlings, breaking into homes. Recently we had 1 member assaulted because of that. That's before the courts. I can't speak about much detail about it, but crime is getting more complicated. We're certainly being affected by Calgary on a daily basis, or crime is coming out to Airdrie. So when I say those extra 2 members, that's where I sit back and say, will 1 member help 50% of the time? The answer is yes. Is it critical? The other 6 positions are absolutely critical. The other 2 is looking in the future of what Airdrie is going to face in the upcoming year. Will they be busy? Absolutely. Those other 2, they would allow us to do more proactive work, getting in the community, doing the proactive patrols in the community. So that's what those 2 members would provide to the communities, those 2 of more eyes patrolling their front end uniform members. So you'd have more of a patrol function in as a proactive measure to try and deter some of this crime. It also gives the ability to deal with the domestic violence. Now, the domestic violence, it's every community, I shouldn't say every, but pretty much every community in Alberta is facing the same problem. They do take a lot of time. We never expected these rates to go as high as they have been, but they're continuing to climb. They do take a significant amount of time for members to investigate them as well. So that is something that we never expected to go this high. I do believe it's based into the economy. So if the economy continues to deteriorate, I think those numbers will get used. So those other 2 members, yes, they will be very active and busy. It's not like they'll be doing anything. So they'd certainly be more, their front lines on the streets. Are they critical? They still remain as that important, but that important piece would get them out there on the streets in the city of Airdrie.
Thanks, Gord.
Advisors for the watches.
Yes, 4 of those positions are going to be a watch, a supervisor on the front line, so it's a roadside supervisor position. So it'll allow another supervisor to be on the streets at all times to go with the members on high-risk calls, the domestics. So you always have that supervision piece. Another piece will be going into our general investigation section, which would assess with the domestic violence piece and also the serious crime coming out of Calgary. The 6th member would be a second traffic position. That's where I say is critical. The traffic position is very active right now. We have 1 position. 50% of the time, no one's on the streets because of that position. So this will counterbalance. So whenever you'd have a traffic position, 1 in the morning, 1 at nighttime in the afternoon, or 1 person goes on training or holidays, it still allows you to house 1. That's where I say it's critical. I think in the city of Airdrie, you absolutely need a second traffic position in the city of Airdrie. That's where those 6 would go. The other 2 would be frontline uniform members driving the streets of Airdrie.
Thank you very much, Inspector. And I guess
Thank you,
one further question
Absolutely.
to that is my follow-up. What would the budget implication be with 2 more members, please?
So through the chair, I'll just provide the financial implications of adding 2 additional RCMP officers. So that goes from the 6 that are currently in what's before you tonight to 8 new officers. Each officer, the cost to the city of Airdrie is $145,000 on an annual basis. I am assuming that these 2 additional officers will start April 1st, as we have the other 6 planned. That will come to a cost of about $109,000. And we've also, so approximately $220,000. And Tara has calculated that out at an additional 0.46 additional tax revenue as well. Just one other point that I may want to throw out there, just eyes wide open as well. There is an additional cost as you move to your 2017, since there's 3/4 of the cost that's being funded and sourced in 2016. The other quarter will have to be sourced in 2017. Okay.
Thank you, Lucy. Alderman Bellick. Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
I just wanted to say that I think that the visibility of the police, the RCMP, is a vital thing. I've heard from many residents that, we see another police officer. And many years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, you weren't seeing those RCMP quite regularly. So I think the visibility of the police is very important to have up front and all the time.
Thank you. Alderman Haig.
Thank you, Worship. 2 questions. So I guess first one of Inspector Sage, if I could. Do you know what, in terms of traffic, what is the difference between an RCMP officer in that role and the municipal enforcement officers that we have that also do traffic patrol?
Probably the main difference between the RCMP and a municipal enforcement traffic member would be the ability to deal with criminal code incidents. So a traffic member or a municipal enforcement wouldn't be able to deal with an impaired driver, a dangerous driver under the criminal code. It's strictly the Provincial Highway Act. So if they happen to come across an impaired driver, it would put a tax or taxing on our members because we would have to attend to take that piece from them. So if it comes down to actually writing a provincial ticket, it would be very similar. But that's the main difference.
And with the sheriffs as well, I assume too.
Yeah, well, the sheriffs have a mandate not in the city of Airdrie, so they'd be on the provincial highways. Yep. So they would travel the Highway 2 and the feeding roads into Airdrie.
But they do ticket some people in the city of Airdrie.
No, and they do have authority to do that, but their main mandate is Highway 2 and the provincial highways. So if they do come across somebody, even with a sheriff as well, they would have to call an RCMP member to deal with the criminal code piece of that. So with an RCMP member, you're getting the ability to deal with all situations without limitations.
Thank you. And then a further question, Your Worship, if I could, to Lucy.
Absolutely.
So again, you mentioned a couple pieces of percentages. So if you add those two officers in, and if everything stands the way it is, what would be the total tax increase?
Okay, so just to review, adding the 2 officers in and funding it through additional tax revenue would add an additional 0.46%. So in total, we'd be looking at 2.96% tax revenue increase.
Sorry, Alderman Colson.
What would we need to do to make up for next year's, what are the implications for next year's tax increase if we're starting from January to April then to fill in those wage gaps?
So through the chair, we'd have to pick up the other third, 1 second. The other quarter, I'm sorry. So you're looking at another $70,000 going into 2017.
So currently, going into 2017, the 6 are already accounted for.
That is,
the 8, the extra 2 just would not be. Okay, so that would be how much of a percent, like a 0.0?
Another 0.15%.
0.15. Okay. So if that was the will of council, perhaps we could put that 0.15% away into our tax stabilization so that we're ready for it for next year. But just a thought.
Thank you.
Your Worship.
Absolutely, Alderman Chapman.
Just one more question, and Mark, you can probably answer this along with Inspector Sage. Right now, our ME officers are on the road and they can't speak to criminal code charges like impaired driving. Do they have the capability to do basically the roadside pre-test, not a breathalyzer, but can they do a pre-test at all?
No, I believe they don't have that ability, but in many of the check stops, they work side by side with the RCMP.
But if one of our ME officers was to pull somebody over and he suspects them to be impaired, he has to make a judgment call at that point, then call in an RCMP member and they would perform the roadside breathalyzer test, and if need be, have to take him in for a full-side breathalyzer.
Yeah, and just to add to that, as a municipal enforcement officer, it'd be no difference than a citizen. I mean, it would be a great witness that would provide evidence to the officer and to the situation to the courts, but it doesn't come with any enforcement powers to deal with impaired driving.
Okay, and as far as the second traffic officer goes, right now we have one full-time traffic officer. Is he specific hours during the day? Does he rotate through evening hours, daytime hours?
Yes, he rotates from daytimes to afternoon hours, really based on the needs of the community. So, but there's times, like for example, in the month of August, the one member got married and he was away on holidays, so we didn't have anyone for about a month. And that's the reality. The members have, up to 4 weeks leave. So there was times that for a longer duration of, 3 weeks where you wouldn't have anybody. This way, that second officer would counterbalance that. You'd have somebody.
Yeah, and I just want everybody to know that that doesn't mean that if somebody went through a red light in front of a police officer, they weren't getting pulled over. It's just because he wasn't a traffic member, but they were still getting pulled over.
And just to add that we do have members on the Safe City Streets program that come in on extra duties just to do traffic enforcement. So yes, we do have a very robust traffic program within but those members would not really be attending to accidents. The traffic member would be that'd be his priority to deal with accidents on the road.
Thank you. And I guess the next question I have would be for Lucy. Lucy, we spoke to the Council Budget Committee of a 0.5% of our tax increase going forward into an operating reserve. If we were to take that 0.5 out of that operating reserve, put it towards these RCMP officers, what if?
Just through the chair, that may be a long answer. What kind of shape are our reserves in right now? Generally, our messaging on our reserves are that when we look at our capital reserve, our general capital reserve, we pretty well draw it down to nothing across our 10-year plan. When we look at our operating reserve, we still feel that it is short. Generally, best practice will tell us that you want to be maintaining at least 3 months worth of your operating fund operating needs in order to allow that level of mitigating risk as you move forward and ensuring that any unforeseen events that come our way. And one of the things that will come to my mind is currently we do have a fair bit of revenue worked into our budgets that's related to growth type revenues, which would be our building inspection money, our development money, and planning, engineering. If, for example, our economy shifts more so the other way, having some additional funds sitting there in operating reserve will help us to keep our business going and not cause us to have to stall and change gears in the middle of one of our fiscal years. It just means that we can continuously be able to provide our services out there. One of my main messages in this particular budget is maybe not so much what we're seeing in 2017 and 18, even though that is, our projections are a bit concerning on that end. It is what's coming our way in 2019-20, when we have more of our other larger pieces of capital infrastructure, civic facilities that are coming on. We are still a city that's growing extremely rapidly. Our projections going out continue to show that we have every reason to believe that we could still continue to grow as we are. And with that comes a whole lot of different needs as that full mid-sized city. And I think that's something you see in the indicators when we do our comparisons to other communities. There's there is more things that we need to be putting out there to our citizens, and whether that be a library with greater square footage or soon to be dealing with an additional fire hall. So those are our concerns as we take a look at our operating reserves. And I think you had maybe one other question for me. The Council Budget Committee did take that 0.5% and have that transferred to the operating reserve and earmarked for tax stabilization. That amounted to $227,500. That could very well cover what you're looking for here for the 2 additional officers, if that's what council would like to do. So that is an option as well, and that would leave your tax revenue increase at 2.5%. So it's an option.
Thanks, Lucy. Alderman Coulson.
I understand where you're going with that, Alderman Chapman. My only concern would be moving forward when we're looking out at the cost of fire, the cost of a larger library, that our taxpayers are going to get hit a lot harder than a 2.5 to 3.5. But I know that was not the temperature of council at the time, so I just felt I needed to make those comments.
Okay. Alderman Haig.
Thank you, Worship. So I agree with Alderman Coulson in the sense that if this is what council chooses to do, then we need to be open and transparent, and just by taking it from another spot, I think it just doesn't feel right. And so if it's going to cost that much, and we feel that the community, that's the temperature or that's the wishes of the community, and it's a need, then the community will need to pay for that right up front.
Thank you. We can let Gord sit down. I think you're good. Mark, we always like you close, so just stand at the ready, please, sir, because you know you'll be called upon very quickly. So so I guess Lucy, and I apologize for going in this. So salaries, wages, and benefits are increasing by 7%. And this was another comment from Alderman Hunter, and one that I also share. Can we just break down the 7%? I believe 1% is for COLA. Then we had 1.5% for pay increase, I think, for certain positions. And I believe the rest was new hires, but I'm not 100% sure. If you could clarify that for me.
Just one sec while I just find my slide on that.
No, that's fine.
I can just have a minute.
We can take questions from, no, I'm just kidding. Actually, while Lucy's doing that, I'll ask council, because you're looking for ways to pay. I'm just curious, so when you look at contracted in our province and certainly impacting a lot of our businesses in the community, and I know when you talk to the businesses, they immediately, if you're in the service industry, you're renegotiating every single contract you have. And a lot of times it's for 50% less or worse than what you initially had. So I'm curious if there isn't some movement in a 3% increase to go to 1.5%. And I'm certain, based on some of the things we've been hearing, certainly on the construction side, we talked about it the other night at our Main Street Square meeting, that, you know, things are falling as it relates to possible opportunities at 13%, I believe, was the number that I'd heard. If that's the case, then 1.5% in my mind would be very doable and could offer some support to the new officers. I guess I'd put it back to my colleagues to see where you sit. Mr. Schultz, you're not one of our colleagues, but obviously you want to turn your light on and make a comment. So I will allow it, but please don't enter the debate. Thank you.
Again, I'll preface it with trying to speak with clarity, but contract and general services in this case is operating expenditures rose 3%. They would not reflect the capital construction benefits that we were talking to earlier. That would show up in your capital budget. These would be simply on operating expenditures, which include things like existing contracts with garbage, transit, things like that.
Yeah, no, but it's
just so we're aware.
Sir, it's not 100% contracted. All I'm saying is those service industries, theirs is operating related as well. All I'm saying is that there's an opportunity to go back to our suppliers or whatever the service providers who are probably going to be struggling. And anyway, I don't want to make any assumptions on the exact makeup. That's what I'm suggesting to my colleagues. And you know, if it is a challenge, we can certainly look. We've amended a budget certainly every year that I've been here. If there are challenges that do arise, and I know that they do, but Alderman Hunter, you wanted to comment, sir?
Yeah, through the chair, I can certainly speak to, in our organization, we've gone to all of our service providers that we had any kind of long-standing relationship and rapport with, and I'm happy to say that a majority of them understand, and they are thankful to continue that relationship and to still have revenue coming in and still be able to support their business model and their staffing. And so they brought some significant dollar cuts back to our organization, which allowed us not to lay people off, not to hire people that are leaving, but we didn't have to, it looks like we're not going to have to lay people off, but some of those dollars did come back to us so that we were able to still keep some of those things in place. So, you know, and I can't speak to all the service providers, contractors for the city, but certainly I would suspect that they would be amenable to keeping work rather than having no work. So I'll leave that up to city staff how to figure that piece out.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Colson.
I would just be very interested. I mean, I understand what you're coming at, contracted services. I think that's more on the capital side. As far as operations go and our tax increase implications, I can't imagine that BFI or our garbage collectors would be offering a discount, because Calgary's not going to offer a discount at the landfill.
I'm not suggesting any of you're renegotiating your contracts, anything that's outside of those contracts. And I don't even know what the percentage is. Maybe
so then I think it would be a great idea to ask what new things.
Well, when we're going to do that right now.
As far as I'm understanding is that this is inflation that this is not new initiatives and new contracts, but perhaps Lucy could speak to that then.
Lucy.
I'll just offer a few comments through the chair. And when we're looking at our contracted services out there, I understand from private industry what kind of steps you may go through in order to be able to deal with that type of operation that you do on a private sector, and find some ways in conjunction with partnering with some of your suppliers and your contractors in order to be able to still be able to operate. And it's good for everybody, right? Then that whoever is providing you the service is able to still work, whoever is employees in the private business can continue to work there, and it's all good all around. We just have to remember, as a public organization, we are not allowed to operate that way. There are a number of laws around a number of procurement laws that we need to follow. So whether it is that transit contract out there or our other contracts, we still need to follow. We still need to put things out for tender when they're over certain values, and people have opportunities to bid on them, and that's how it gets awarded. So don't always have that flex. We don't have that similar type of flexibility as in the private industry in order to come back and negotiate. If council is looking for ways to reduce costs, I think some of the comments coming from wants and needs in an organization under the Municipal Government Act, as a municipality, we do have to provide out to our citizens to a safe community. That is a requirement under the MGA. Everything else that's provided out to our citizens is on a as wanted basis for our citizens, and council decides what those are. So, and oftentimes in difficult times, that's where we go. Whether it is with our own personal families, there may be things that we may not be able to do when things are a little bit tougher out there. So, if there are some services that we provide to the community that council would like us to look at and decrease some of our levels out there, that's an option to take taxes down as well. And I'm just still pulling up the figures on the personnel costs, but I can add those in a few minutes.
Okay, and just in no way was I suggesting that we do things not according to the MGA or our procurement policies. It was never the intent. All I'm saying is that there are people out there that are going to be lowering their prices. They already are. I've seen it in a number of industries. It's out there. It's in front of us. So to deny it's out there is just not living within what's out there. And every forecaster you see, every financial publication that's out there, it is not positive on the province. And I agree, but it's not our business to make sure everybody else is anyway. A little frustrated with that response, but is there any other comments as it relates to this particular item? Is there any interest at all on lowering this, or as council's consensus is we're going to keep it the same? Deputy Mayor Bellick, your light is on.
Through the chair, thank you. When we talk about lowering taxes or finding some other ways, it seems that we always go to services rather than maybe the new FTEs that are requested. And maybe want to look at that, maybe reducing. Yes, I know that
we're coming to that. Sorry, Alderman Hunter.
Well, through the chair, I guess, first and foremost, the process is never, or shouldn't be ever, adversarial. We're all looking to the same end, is to make Airdrie the best community that we can possibly make it with the best dollar value. But how do we get there? The reality is, in our community, those very people that are going to be paying for the services that we're putting on the table, many of them are being given pink slips and losing their jobs and things like that. We are not, I haven't heard through any of the budget process where we were even considering downsizing any departments. We're adding additional FTEs. I get that the ask was astronomical and we pared it down to about half of that, but to me, when you're adding 15 and you asked for 30, that's not a cut of 15. That's an addition of 15. So you're still going up. So in my mind, the citizens that are out there that I'm so concerned about are the dad that lost his job in the oil patch, the mom that lost her job in an oil patch related job, and we're starting to see again. We got one of our developers talk today about letting some people go. This is a developer that develops in this community, and we don't know where that's going to end. And so, again, as I said, if I had $1 magic wand, I'd wave a magic wand and say, here's the money that everybody needs in this community. Let's keep those things going. But reality is, and the mayor alluded to it, prices are coming down in the private sector, and I would suspect that, and I don't know the mechanisms as to procurement as to, I would find it very hard to believe that if your supplier that said, I've got a set price of $10, but guess what? Due to circumstances beyond my control, I'm only going to invoice you for $8. I would be hard pressed to think that it would be illegal for you to say, I'm sorry, but I have to pay you 10, even though you're only going to charge me 8. So I get that piece, the legal, the contractual obligations. But again, if economic pressures are starting to put downward pressure on service and services provided, and I believe the term was general or contracted and general services, was it not? Not just contracted? So we do a lot of general services. We call people in when we need them and things like that. And I'm sure that's probably what maybe the mayor was referring to is on that general side of it. There are, and there should be, start to see some downward pressure on some of those numbers. And again, like I said, I mean, I get everybody's country's going to go over the next 1 year and beyond.
Okay, so just to clarify, there's been absolutely zero conversation about reducing any staff whatsoever. Our business units have grown significantly every year, so that's not even part of the conversation, nor has it even been discussed at any level, and I don't suspect it will be. As far as I do co-sign a lot of the checks for some of these services, and those contracts are negotiated, lots of them that are negotiated prior to the calendar year. So I believe there is some leeway with some of that money. However, I don't see much consensus other than a couple of comments from the rest of my colleagues, so we'll move on from there. I'll let Lucy provide the salaries, wages, and benefits details, please. Thank you.
So can I just please get clarification on which piece of information you'd like out of that? Can you just repeat the question, please, now that I have the information in front of me?
Yep, no, the 7%. I believe 1% was allocated to COLA, correct?
I'd have to phrase that in a bit of a different way.
Okay, yeah. Well, so
total,
all I'm looking for is the makeup of the 7%. So if you include the FTEs, is it 3%? If you know what I mean? And if I'm not being clear, please let me know.
So is your question the total dollar value associated with the new FTEs? Is that what you'd like to know?
Just so of the 7%, what's the makeup? What is it? I know there's a wage increase for some staff. I know that there's FTEs being proposed, and I know that we have a COLA increase.
Estimates on what is needed for both of those positions on our non-unionized, it falls in line with our compensation methods, and there's a 1% COLA increase that's associated with existing staff, and that's always based on what we're seeing in CPI, and we pull those out of our economic factors that come out of the Calgary region. We also, in our compensation model, have went through another salary survey, which happens every second year. The rates were able to stay very consistent year over year. There's just a small increase of $97,000 across over the total cost of benefits. And there is always, as we also talked about, RCMP officers, where there's a portion that's a catch-up the following year. We take the same premise around, oftentimes when we bring on new employees, they are often come on April 1st, so there's always an additional piece of that that's picked up in the following year, and that's over $700,000. And the remaining pieces are really small items, and that's what makes up the $3.1 million.
Sorry, Lucy, and the 300,000 was over and above the million, right? So that's the salaries was $1 million, and then benefits was $300,000, right?
Correct.
Thank you. So Alderman Hunter, you got some detail there. Do you want to comment? You want to reduce all of the staff? Is that what you're suggesting? I just need clarification so that we can get through this piece.
Well, again, through the chair. So for the people, for the tens of thousands that are watching on YouTube and the folks that are here, so when we look at the original ask, and let me just pull that up, so the original ask was 17.81 full-time equivalents. It's been reduced to 15.71. So to make it perfectly clear, so I would put it there. I can't go into deciding which of those are critical. That's not what I'm here for, but I would say the same thing. Are they important, are they critical, or are they nice to have?
Okay. Sorry, Alderman Burley.
I don't believe our staff ever asked for a nice to have, Your Worship. And 34 as an ask originally, I don't think that's an astronomical number. With our growth over the last few years, more and more is getting put on the corner of the desk, which is not being addressed. And our residents' service levels on some of those things are being affected by that. I think everyone on this council will agree our staff works harder than anybody. They do a great job out there, a fantastic job. But I worry about burnout in time. By not adding positions to positions that need it, and I leave it up to staff to determine those positions. I'm not an expert in the field, so I have no idea what positions are added now than we were then. And 10 years from now, we'll be farther ahead then than we are now. It's the way it is. There are layoffs. It happens. And I feel for those people. I mean, I've been through it myself twice, layoffs. And yet I got back on my feet and kept going, and that's what you do. With regards to the number we've got, the ask, it's 15. With the growth rates over the last few years, 15, and we grew, what, over 7% last year? And is it about a 4% growth in staff with the 15 now?
No, not.
For Your Worship, growth rate was 6.9%.
But what was our staff? What's our staff at?
Staff growth was, I think, in the 4% range.
Yeah. So I know just because we had 1,000 citizens, you don't add the same percentage of staff, but you do need to keep increasing your staff so that not just keep them happy, but keep them sane and healthy. And we're all worried about safety and health, and that's important too for the staff. You can see during budget time how stressed some staff can get, and it's not their fault. They're just working hard trying to get the numbers down. And I thought the budget this year, when they came in at 3.5, that was astronomical compared to what we've seen in other years. They worked hard to get it down to that level, so it made the vetting process by council that much clearer and that much fairer for us to decide. And with regards to cutting services cutting the percentage of contracts and services, my fear is, what if they don't come in at those levels? Where does that money come from? It comes from reserves. And then if our projections are off on growth, where does that money come from? It comes from reserves. And that's why we need to look at both ends. I think we're being a little overestimate in our growth, in our numbers on the revenue side. If they come in under, it's going to have to come from reserves to match it up. If we start cutting from the contracted services side and they don't come to fruition, all of a sudden we're drawing more from reserves. So that's where the dilemma is for me, Your Worship.
And we have had a fairly significant surplus the last number of budget years, so that definitely, and it flows into reserves 50-50. So.
But our reserves still aren't growing at that level we need them, though.
And again, I would say that everyone shares your opinion on the staff and the work that they do, and nobody's criticized. In fact, I mean, when you look at this, we're arguing over a very small percentage of a very large document, and we're not even arguing. We're having some constructive dialogue. Is there any other comments as it relates to the FTEs as we move forward? So I would have preferred to see less. I mean, I don't want to get into the specifics of the different categories where we're seeing a staff member included. I would argue a number of them they may be needed or they may not be needed depending on what we look like as a community going forward. And if we add those, a number of those staff, then we're looking at an added cost for the community going forward that we won't be looking forward to retracting anytime soon. I would have preferred to see at least a recommendation from someone that would suggest that, you know, we wouldn't hire, other than the police officer piece, that we would hold off on the hiring until, you know, the first quarter of the year. We reconvene and determine that, I always defer to Mr. Schultz and Lucy and their team to determine whether or not those people will in fact be needed. That's what I would like to see, but again, I guess I'd be putting it back to council to see what their comments are. I am not a doom and gloom guy. I wake up every morning thinking we're going to be in a wonderful place, but I have talked to over 150 businesses in the last 2 weeks, and things are not that great in and outside of Airdrie, also other municipal politicians, and I agree with Alderman Hunter with regards to the provincial and federal taxes that are being burdened on our businesses, our small businesses and our business owners on their salaries and their cost of operation as it relates to the new energy tax. It's significant. So every little bit counts. And anyway, I'll stop talking. Alderman Coulson, please.
I wanted to ask you, Your Worship, I understand where you're coming from as far as let's wait and see what's happening and we can always add in later. My only concern with that is we cannot increase taxes later and we cannot pull from our reserves only to have to increase them now twofold the following year.
I would support the tax being what it is, and if it isn't, then that money goes into reserves.
I see what you're saying. So regardless,
absolutely,
we raise the taxes with the direction to staff to hold off on X amount of positions until we know for sure that they are needed. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I guess I'll use an example. We have 2 new building inspectors, and I mean, I've talked to some of the people that work in that department, and I realize they've definitely been pressed. We've got a lot going on. But, you know, when you talk to the manager of planning and you talk to other people in the community as it relates to new development, home builders right now, depending on who you talk to, single families are not selling. I think talked to one developer this morning, and they said they had 13 firm offers. Last year they had 80. So that's a significant drop in a single family. Now, multifamily was still there, but less than it was the year prior. So it'll be interesting to see how we move forward. I understood from the building inspections report, it's talked about some of the things that are opportunities for next year, and one of them was more multifamily. And we've already had many discussions on more multifamily and the impact to traffic and what it's going to create in our community. Whether that is the case, just talking to planning and the members there isn't a lot in the hopper, but again, I don't know what the future holds, and if in fact the guys and the girls in planning or in building inspections are busy, I don't think the first quarter of the new year is going to impact them too significantly on their workloads. If I'm wrong, let me know, but I think if you waited and determined, you know, yes, we definitely need 1 or we definitely need 2, then let's go and get them. Then I know you'd have the support of our council. I think Alderman Haig, you had your button on, sorry.
Thank you, Worship. I guess I'm getting a little frustrated with the process and a little bit of the rhetoric. On one hand, we say we had a recommendation from Budget Committee, and we voted on that, so we know where people stood at that time. We say we want to increase one area, whether that's 2 or whatever, and then we say, but we want to just decrease some other areas, but we're not going to tell you how to do it. So on one hand, we want to interfere in one department, but we don't want to interfere in the other department. You just go ahead and cut, we want you to cut. But because we perceive that there's a want that's greater than was a recommendation, that we're going to interfere in that area. So I guess I'm getting a little frustrated with the. I'm glad that it happens. I'm just trying hard to understand why we would look at saying, do we need 2 building inspectors, or why do we need 2 more RCMP officers? We've come with asks, we voted on it, and I guess I'm getting frustrated with the back and forth of saying we don't interfere, but we want to interfere.
Fair enough. Alderman Chapman.
Your Worship, I do agree with Alderman Haig. We heard important, we heard critical. We heard Inspector Sage say those 2 members were important, 6 are critical. But on the other hand, we started with looking for over 30 full-time whatever. We've got it down to 15, which I do believe staff feels are critical, not important. But that being said, I'm curious to see if there's a flavor, and I don't have any issues with it, with council budget meeting again before the next council meeting. We've given staff a lot of information, a lot of direction. I don't have a problem with having another meeting. That's what I was elected for, to represent these citizens.
So there is no increase in planning and building, as council knows, and I just want to point out, I think that was by way of example.
And I didn't want to point them out. I was just trying to make a point that if the economy does go south, that was a good area that we could focus in on that potentially may not be that busy. But, sorry, Alderman Coulson.
So I understand what you're saying, Alderman Chapman, in giving staff a while to address what's been brought up tonight, but I believe that this is, we're hearing again, this isn't new information and these aren't new requests. So I'm prepared to vote on this budget tonight. I'm not sure exactly at this point what my motion should look like, because I'm in favor of 8 RCMP, but I realize that this is going to get our percent up to around the 3% mark. So I'm not sure, Your Worship, how you would like me to proceed from here as chair.
Well, that certainly is up to your flavor, however you'd like to proceed as it relates to that motion.
Before I make...
Yeah, and we're going to be, so just so everybody know, we're doing operating first, then we are doing capital second. So if there is no more debate, certainly shared my feelings as it relates to the areas of concern for myself and possibilities to look at things. I believe, well, your light came off, I apologize. Alderman Burley, please.
I also voted no on the budget at Council Budget Committee, but for totally different reasons. I think we are elected to represent today and spend the dollars today wisely, but we're also elected to plan for the future. The RCMP request this year was 6. They asked for 8, and they said 6 is critical. Next year, they're asking for 8. Year after that, they're asking for 8. In 2019 or 2020, we're going to be opening our 4th fire hall. That's 16 new firemen. These are all going to be added into the budget. And to me, it makes more sense to plan for those now so we can keep our tax increases at a reasonable rate in the future. I realize 3% might affect some people. Yes, $3 a month can affect your budget in the end. But 3% overall this year, and then if you have to go to, if we cut it down to 2 or even 1, all of a sudden in 2020, when we're adding 20 new firemen, we might have to go to 12, 14%. And now that is going to affect people. If we do a gradual increase every year, and taxes are like death, that's the one thing you can count on is death and taxes. But the growth in this city over the years, I don't think has been sustained by our tax rate. I know we're balancing the budget, but I think that's a good cause because of our staff. And in the future, if all of a sudden we're adding 20 firemen at, I don't know, 100,000, I'm just using 100,000 a fireman. That's $2 million all of a sudden added into the budget in 1 year. That's 4% right there. 8 RCMP officers, that's $1 million. That's another 2%. So you're looking at these increases, and if we don't plan to put money away to cover them every year, and your worship's comment about, okay, he'd be okay at 2.5 if we didn't increase. I'm okay with that in a way, but I worry about the effect it has on the services and their staff and their community.
Yeah, no one does.
And therefore, when I voted no on the 2.5, I was looking at more at 3.5 to put another % in reserves to plan for that future. And I, as elected official, that is part of our job, is to plan for the future. The 2017 election, I don't know, I mean, you turned over to another council at that time, and all of a sudden, they're the ones faced with the 15 to 20% increase. And that's not fair to those people that are running on the goodwill that the city's well managed. So I will support the budget as it is now. I would probably even support 2 more CMP officers based on what Inspector Sage said tonight. But I don't want to, I think we've cut. I know we're adding 15 staff, so we're technically not cutting, but we did cut from what was out there originally. And I think it's a very prudent, very fair budget. The numbers in there, yes, they're high numbers, but we're a growing city. We're a big city now. We're no longer a little town. And we have to face those realities that taxes are going to happen. 3% increase, $4 a month household. You talk about fixed income. Basically, as a small business owner, I know what you're talking about, Your Worship. My wife's a substitute teacher, so she gets that money. I get my council what we get, which is, what, $31,000 now a year? Without the cost of living increase this year, which is fine. And then my business, it's still a growing business, so you don't draw much from a new business. And so I understand these pressures. But $4 a month, then I won't go to McDonald's on the Sunday like we do. We'll do something else. but I will manage to get that money in the
What-
budget.
Then I would ask the question then, so if cost of living isn't important to you, why is it important to everybody else?
It is important to me, no. I
You,
didn't say
what
it
you
wasn't.
said, we're not getting it, right?
No,
Council has
and
refused it.
I'm okay with that.
No, I understand that, but so why wouldn't that logic apply to everyone else? I'm not supportive of
Because
not
my
giving
workload
the
is not the same
1%.
as the staff's workload on
Okay,
council.
that's all I wanted to
the reason
clarify. Okay, thank you. Any other conversations, discussions, needs, wants? Alderman Hunter.
So, Lucy, can you just, through the chair, reiterate the extra 2 officers would have been encompassed in the numbers that would have gone into a tax stabilization fund, correct? That would, so that would leave it at 2.5, and that money could be coming from that piece, correct?
Through the chair, that's one of your options. We currently have half a percentage point that's being sent to reserves. It's $227,000 that would cover the cost of 2 additional officers. So what that would mean is it would just be out there as a 2.5% tax increase. And there would be, that transfer to reserve would be removed, and we would just be adding that to the RCMP contract.
But it would not.
That's what that would look like.
Right, but it would not preclude other transfers to reserves, correct?
That's correct. All the
Thank you.
all the other additional planned transfers to reserves would be as they were when you saw them in the document that we put forward.
And just to clarify, Alderman Hunter, I don't think there's any appetite for that 0.5 not to continue to go to reserves. So, at least from what I can see, certainly. Alderman Coulson, I believe you're going to make a motion.
So we're ready?
Yeah, well, I think so, yeah.
Okay. Just before I make this motion, I'm going to speak to fiscal sustainability, which is what I think has not been looked at this community up until recent years. When we're looking at our growth, if it were to slow down considerably, we're hearing 40%, 50% out in the building community. If our revenues came in at 40 to 50% lower, we would be in serious trouble. So the definition of fiscal sustainability is the ability of a government to sustain its current spending, tax, and other policies in the long run without threatening government solvency, or defaulting on some of its liabilities or promised expenditures. So we need to look forward. If we bring on a fire hall at a possible 18% operational tax increase 6 years from now, we could be in a lot of trouble. So with that, I'm going to make my motion based on keeping up with inflation. The fact that our expenditures, debt, and salaries is approximately 40% lower than every other community, and they're continuing to raise their taxes as well. So with that, my motion would be that I guess council endorses the operational budget as presented, adding in the 2 extra RCMP officers. That brings us up to a 2.94%, but I'd like to make that an even 3, which would then go with a 0.56% into tax stabilization. Is that correct with those numbers? Would it be 0.56?
Should be
That's correct.
0.56. Sorry, Lucy, 5.6?
Summarize, you're looking at a 3% tax increase. We would need the 0.46 in order to go to cover the cost of the 2 additional officers. I'll add the extra 0.04% to the 0.5 that was out there, going to the transfer to reserves. Okay? So even 3% tax increase, if I'm hearing the motion correctly, that will send an additional $209,300 to the RCMP contract, and the remaining dollars will be transferred.
For clarification, when it's in the reserves, it's earmarked for tax stabilization. Are we renamed reserves, or is that?
I am referring to the 0.5%.
Yeah.
We actually do not have a specific reserve that's called tax stabilization. It is, I'm pretty confident that as we move through our fiscal sustainability framework, that is likely a specific reserve that council would like to see. So for the time being, what we can do is we just run that through the general operating reserve. And just what we can do is within that, we can identify that that is being held for future tax stabilization.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And just to your comment before the motion's called, council is looking at significant dollars being spent on capital, which will certainly impact our community in a lot of ways, and we seem to be progressing with that as we move forward. So that's part and parcel of this whole process. And
No motion, just a question for Lucy.
Okay, go ahead.
On the 3%, what would that look like to the average taxpayer? How much would the increase be? So we have 3.36 to 2.5, so what it would be at 3%?
I could only guess at this point to just be
not
minimal.
a significant difference.
So we're not looking at $4. We're just looking at a couple
75 cents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Sorry, don't quote me on that, you guys. I don't have a calculator in front of me. I'm not sure what the number is. Okay, motion's on the floor.
Sorry, George, just...
Sorry, Alderman Hank, go ahead.
Thank you. And again, that's the average taxpayer.
Yep.
Thank you, right? So it could be more for some people, it could be less for some people. Just a reminder.
Oh, it's definitely. Sorry, last comment, then we're calling the motion.
So I guess, I like the theory, and I like, we're going to put it into a tax stabilization fund when in fact it's going to go into general reserves and has the ability to be dispersed anywhere across the organization, correct?
Through the chair, council has the discretion to do what they wish with any one of our reserves.
And it falls
does not
to us.
move until council makes a resolution.
Absolutely. It has to come to us
yes,
first.
With the caveat to your ones that are restricted.
Yes.
And so through the chair then, can I make a friendly amendment that if we are going to increase it that little bit, that we create the tax stabilization fund so that it stays in that purpose and can't be used somewhere in some other direction?
Yes, staff would welcome that recommendation.
So are you all right with that, Alderman Coulson?
I'm perfectly fine with that amendment as long as our staff are able to do so moving forward with this budget. Yes? Okay, that'd be fine.
Okay. Okay, Alderman Hunter. Perfect. All those in favor? All those opposed? 1. Motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Pelkey. We're moving on to 10.1 capital budget. It is Alderman Haig, sorry.
Thank you, Worship. So we have an amount put before us, and I don't know if there's going to be any discussion. We've had some discussion, spent some time doing that previously. I welcome discussion. It's all of our motion, I believe, and so I would move it as recommend the capital budget of $56,184,226.00.
So on the capital front, I was the only one, I think, to vote against it. And no disrespect to Archie and his team. The only item that I'm concerned about is the 2.5 million that the council majority supported moving on to this budget. I think that's one of those ones. I think it's a really great to have, but I think at this time, when you look at it's not really an event style park. There is limited parking over there. We're creating an event style park. I think if we waited a year, I don't know. I'm just not. I think that's one that I'd like to see postponed until we've had a little more consultation with community to make sure that 2.5 million is what they want to spend their dollars on. But that was really my only concern. And the other one was around the expansion of Yankee Valley from 24th to 8th Street as not being a priority over, as Lauren knows, continuing down 8th. But after speaking with staff and understanding Lauren's reasoning and his staff's reasoning behind the priority list, I concur with what they are proposing. Alderman Hunter, and then we do have a motion on the floor if there's no other commentary.
I guess again, I would prefer to see the parks piece deferred as well.
Okay, so just ask if there's anyone else. Sorry, I know Alderman Coulson.
So I was not in support of the $2.4 million for the Nose Creek enhancements, but if we could pull out the washroom piece. Listen.
Paul's going to choke on the stainless steel over here, just so you know.
Anybody who has used any member of the public who has used those washroom facilities knows that is the reason why they were indicated as an issue. And I would like to see the washrooms dealt with. I've met with Archie. He spoke to my fears, and I am no longer afraid that the washroom piece is going to be an issue. Should we invest a significant amount of dollars in it, I do believe that the public will be happy with the outcome. So I would just say to council, I can understand deferring the amphitheater, the boardwalk, those pieces, maybe even the concession, but those washrooms need to be dealt with to give, I guess, Archie, if we could, Your Worship, pull him up and he could speak a little bit better.
Well, he was actually late. He got stuck to the toilet seat because of stainless steel.
It was cold out there.
It was very cold. There's
it
no heat in the
happens.
room. So I'm glad you're back, Archie. I hope you didn't tear any skin, and please come forward when you get a moment.
I'm guessing Archie never thought that I would probably be his biggest champion at this point, but if he,
Well,
Archie,
sorry, you've removed the 2 point. You've got 100 grand for New Can, so it's you're not really a champion for Archie. Just to clarify.
No. Listen,
Yeah.
Archie, if you could please explain how you're going to knock down walls and put in 2 doors that don't lock and all of those things, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Just to note up front, I always feel that all the aldermen and all of council and the mayor always have my back and support me in all of my endeavors. Even toilets, yes. I will say that what we had planned for the washroom area, and if you have ever had the displeasure of going to the washroom in Nose Creek Park, you would find that the facility lacks the amenities that we would like to have for creature comforts. And so what I'd like to be able to do is, if we were going to phase the whole project and we were going to do the washrooms, I believe the washroom development itself was more, maybe 800,000 just for the washrooms. But what we were going to do in the existing washrooms that we have there right now, there's actually 2 buildings. There's a west building and an east building. What they've done in the past is both of those buildings are split in half. Basically, it's just 2 washrooms, so you have 4 washrooms in total. What we'd like to do is knock down the common walls, keep the architecture. The buildings themselves are very stable and very well built. We'd like to knock down the common walls in the center of those buildings and create larger open washrooms. Use the existing doors actually that we have in the washrooms, so you'd have access and egress, so you'd have a public washroom that's open all the time rather than the washrooms that we have right now where you can lock the door behind you. And that's not the way we build washrooms nowadays. We want to have doors that will open at any time. And I'm sure the police would back me on that one, that you don't, once you create a public space where they can lock the door behind them, then all sorts of nefarious things can happen, as well as all sorts of vandalism. So we want to make sure that we have open public access into those washrooms. So the west building would be the women's washrooms. There would be half a dozen stalls in there, as opposed to just 2 bathrooms right now. The east, that would be the men's washroom. We would knock down the small concession that we have on the north side of that east building and eliminate that concession because it lacks the amenities to be able to function as a good concession anyway. And we would use that as expansion space for the men's washroom. And so then we would have, I believe, 6 stalls in the men's washroom as well. So both of those buildings, we're trying to be as frugal as we can. We would end up with 6 women's washroom, or 6 women's cubicles, and I believe it's 4 stalls in the men's washroom and urinals, and that would serve the public much better than the washrooms that we have today.
We had at the festival grand opening, they were lined up 10 deep just to go and use them on either side. So they're greatly needed whenever there's an event there. And a lot of times, as you say, they're locked, or I have to phone you or other members of parks to come out and open them. So anyway, thank you, Archie.
Okay.
Sorry, Alderman Hunter, go ahead.
Yeah, just quick question. So is the line size going to allow you to do that, or are you going to have to take it right out to the street?
The existing services that we have, we'll be able to use the existing services for the revamping of the washrooms.
Perfect. Just point of clarification, you said we always have your backside? Is that what you said, or did you say back? I just, point of clarification.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
It doesn't seem like there's much of an appetite. Sorry, Alderman Chapman, thank you for showing me a light.
Your Worship, I do support this, I guess, expansion, redevelopment of Nose Creek Park. I think it needs to be done. I agree with the washrooms. They need to be done for sure, but I don't think we should piecemeal it. We should do it and get it done instead of, this year doing washrooms, next year doing the amphitheater, doing the boardwalk. I think it'd be, if one disruption, get it done, get it looking good, have one, grand opening, cost of scale or cost of labor coming up in the next few years, probably going to be a little bit cheaper. We don't know what's going to happen if we go ahead this year coming up. I think it'll be, if this economy bounces back before we do the next part, it's going to cost us more. I think we should do it now and get it done and all at once. That way we have one disruption.
Fair enough. Alderman Coles.
I just wanted to say Alderman Chapman brings up an excellent point about the cost of labor and construction. If we can take advantage of it now at a projected 13% lower, so I have no problem with the entire project.
Perfect. All right. Any other comments? There being none. Alderman Haig, you have your motion on the floor.
Thank you. And just to add, that was, so I believe the recommendation of the Community Services Advisory Board
Yes,
to keep it.
Yeah, the plan. Okay. So the motion's on the floor. All those in favor?
Just point
Sorry?
of clarification, so
Yes.
I'm not, I think I missed it a bit. So we're
Within the capital budget, it's 100% as what you see is what they will be approving.
So
there is no reduction
we didn't
nothing.
defer and only did the washrooms.
No, that was just we wanted to put Archie on the spot and see if he'd fell apart, but he survived it very well.
Thank you.
It's very calm and cool and collected. Okay, so all those in favor of the capital budget, all those opposed, 2 opposed, myself and Alderman Hunter, the motion is carried. Thank you very much, ladies. Thank you, Archie. We're moving on to, what are we moving on to? Alderman Burley, please.
Thank you, Your
And do we need a break? Is everybody okay? Would you like a 5-minute recess or? Nope.
Let's
Okay.
finish the budgets.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. We have the 2017-2018 operating plan and the 2017-25 capital plan. Whenever you're ready, Lucy, if you have anything else to add.
Actually have nothing further to present, just looking for the motions for the future planning.
Thank you.
If
Alderman
there's no
Burley.
debate, then I'll make a motion to accept for information.
Sorry, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Alderman Burley. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Lucy. Not Sharon. All right, where are we? 10.2? No. No, Shannon. Oh, you need a recess? Oh, unless I think there was consensus to continue. So. Okay, so we're at 10.2A, Alderman Chapman, please, and this relates to Shannon, I think, right? Yeah, Shannon.
Thank you, and I see
Sorry,
Shannon,
go ahead.
Shannon is trying to make her way forward to speak to us about Bylaw B 55, 2015, regarding increased water daily fixed rate.
Sorry for that delay. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. I will be presenting the 2016 utility rates for your approval tonight. Here are the utility rates along with the proposed 2016 rates. Just a quick reminder that the bulk of the cost in this utility is heavily tied to the cost coming from Calgary. Airdrie rates are set to increase at 6.3% in 2016, and note there is no increase on the environmental fee daily rate proposed. Calgary has already approved their utility rates for 2016, and they are increasing by over 9%. So what does this mean for the average homeowner in Airdrie? The average utility bill with 15 cubic meters of consumption is set to increase by just over $6 to $109.70. This slide shows the water and sewer rates for each of our benchmark communities in 2015. I did add Edmonton since this chart was shown at the Council Budget Committee, as St. Albert is a similar community to Airdrie in that they do rely on Edmonton for all their water and sewer needs. The bottom graph shows the proposed 2016 rates for Airdrie, as well as the approved 2016 Calgary rates. The average rate for water and sewer in Airdrie is 13% lower than Calgary. And I'll move on to the alternatives and recommendations. Choosing the first option would amend the water, sewer, and waste management fees effective January 1st, 2016. Council could also choose to defeat the bylaw or table the bylaw at this time, which may require amending the 2016 budget. The 2016 utility rates were presented to the Council Budget Committee in November, and a recommendation was made at that time to Council to approve the rates as presented. At this time, administration is also recommending that Council give 3 readings to each of the bylaws to amend the rates for 2016.
Thanks, Shannon. Alderman Hunter.
Through the chair, can you just go back to that slide with the, I think it was a 12-cent increase on flat sewer? One more. So sewer flat rate daily is going from 67 cents to 79, right?
Correct.
And so what's that per year?
It'd be 79 cents times 365 days.
So the increase, so that's, what is it? 12 cents, right? 12 cents a day times 365 days.
So you're wondering what the sewer flat daily rate would be for an entire year?
The increase, yeah, the increase.
So for an entire year, the 2016 proposed sewer fixed rate is $288.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and again, I guess through the chair, these are just flow-through rates anyway, so you collect and send it south.
Correct.
Down the same pipe.
So for anybody who hasn't been here before or watching, we're subjected to Calgary rates, and pretty much what they prescribe and what we've agreed to in order to have clean, safe drinking water is, this is one of the costs of doing business with our service provider, and I'm certainly going to be supporting this. So if who's starting on the motions? I apologize. Alderman Chapman, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this time, I'd like to move first reading of bylaw B 55, 2015.
Excellent. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Alderman Hegg, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd move second reading.
Thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Then we have Alderman Coulson, please.
Permission for third reading, Your Worship.
Thank you. All those in favor? And it's unanimous. And Deputy Mayor Bellick, please.
And third reading of bylaw number B 55, 2015.
Excellent. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much. We're moving on to 10.2. Alderman Haig, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I think we can just probably go the other way.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll move first reading then.
Okay. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Alderman Coulson.
Second reading, Your Worship.
Thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And Alderman Chapman, please.
Permission for third, Your Worship.
Thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Alderman Burley, please.
Third reading of bylaw B 56, 2015, Your Worship.
Excellent. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And 10.2C, Alderman Haig, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Let's talk about daily waste management. Did you say anything more? No?
You chicken.
So I'd move first reading, Your Worship.
This is so fun. Yes, all those in favor. Sorry. Gosh, got a glass eye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Then we move on to Deputy Mayor Bellick, please.
And second reading, please.
All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Alderman Colson, please.
Permission for third reading, Your Worship.
Thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And finally, Alderman Chapman, please.
Your Worship, I'd like to move third reading of bylaw B57 2015.
Excellent. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We're finishing up there. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Lucy. Business arising. Introductions. Alderman Hunter, please.
So Sharon's going to come forward and give us alternatives to the use of the alderman title.
Your Worship, members of Council, at their meeting of November 2nd, Council asked staff to report back with respect to alternatives to the use of the title of alderman. So we took a look at our comparable communities, Red Deer, St. Albert, Grand Prairie, Lethbridge, and Medicine Hat, and we found that all of those communities are using the title of councillor. And so Council, you have really two options. You can stay with alderman, or you can shift and refer to yourselves as councillors. And at this time, we're recommending that you really do move to the name of councillor. There will be minor cost implications, mostly for business cards, though.
Excellent. Thank you. Would you like to define costs? Are we okay guesstimating? Okay. If it goes through, apologize. Alderman Hunter, please.
Yeah, I'd like a ballpark idea what the cost would be. Website, yes. There's cards, there's...
My estimate would be less than $500.
Okay, thank you. And that's contained in a, what, council fund, corporate contingency?
We would be able to find that within either the council or legislative services budget without any problem.
Thank you.
The mayor would support it with some dollars as well. Deputy Mayor Bellick.
And when would this be enacted if it was voted in?
If you made the resolution tonight, we should be able to get everything changed before the end of the year.
Very good, thank you.
Sorry,
Your Worship.
Yes, Alderman Chapman, go ahead.
I'm sorry, just a question. Do we have any idea how many municipalities there is in Alberta that are still going by alderman? Like whether they be towns, cities? I'm just going back to when this was a small town, it was an alderman. When you look up the definition of alderman, it's sort of a historic type definition, so I'm just curious.
It very much is a historic definition, and I think as council will recall, after every council election, we ask council how they'd like to be referred, and typically Airdrie's council has stuck with alderman. With respect to the rest of the province of Alberta, I do not know how many are still using the term alderman.
Thank you. Alderman Colson.
Sorry, just I guess a anecdote. So the first and only time I have seen the term alderman being used was actually last Friday, and it was Spruce, I want to say Spruce Grove. And I looked up and I saw alderman, and I don't normally see that. So Spruce Grove, we know there's one other municipality for sure.
Well, Nolan likes to do things differently there. Alderman Burley, please.
One thing, Your Worship, should this pass tonight, I'd like to recommend that council uses up their current alderman cards before they even bother ordering the councillor cards. I mean, I've got a couple hundred, I might as well use them up rather than throw them out. And so I'd say use them, and then when we need new cards after we're out, then we get the councillor cards at that time.
Sure. I think you need to hand out more cards to angry residents. That would be my suggestion to you, sir.
I guess they're not angry with me, Your Worship.
Well, here. Yeah, he has mayor cards he hands out. Thank you so much. Alderman Hunter, please.
Just through the chair, I can, not big in the scheme of things changing the title. I can say in my second term, alderman's one of the nicer things I've been called, so.
All right, I'm not commenting.
Okay, make a motion on the floor to approve changing title of alderman to councillor.
Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? One opposed. Alderman Burley. The motion's carried. Thank you, Sharon. 13.1. Sharon, you're staying up for these two, correct? Sorry, 3. 13.1, 13.2, and 13.3. If you could bring those forward, please.
Yes, Your Worship. Tonight you have three pieces of correspondence. The third was actually an addendum to the original agenda. The first is asking Council to proclaim January 2016 as Kindness Month in Airdrie. The second is from Wellness Alberta, just providing information with respect to a proposed provincial wellness foundation. And the last is one that came in recently, and it's a request regarding Bill 6, and just asking if Council wishes to support sending a letter to the province regarding Bill 6. Thank you.
Thank you. And the letter was not of support of Bill 6, just to clarify if you haven't had a chance to see it. So Deputy Mayor Bellick, would you make the first proclamation, please?
Yes, it'd be great. My first act of kindness would be to proclaim act of kindness for January 2016.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Alderman Hunter, please.
Council, make a motion before council that we, I don't know, accept for information the letter for Wellness Alberta. I don't know that.
Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. And Alderman Chapman, and I'll just give you guys a little bit of feedback. I received a call from this gentleman, but we've also received several other emails and letters from our rural residents, not in support of Bill 6, and what they're asking for from council is a letter just, and I think if we decide to do that, to specifically say that we're asking for the government to hold off on the legislation until they've had a longer opportunity to speak to the farming community and all those affected. But that's certainly up to you guys. Sorry, Alderman Haig.
Thank you, Worship. I believe it was announced earlier this evening that the government plans to make amendments to amend Bill 6 to basically say that it doesn't include farm families on ranch families, and as well, it's only anybody that is employed in a position in a ranch and a farm. So if your neighbor that, again, they talked about various illustrations being, you know, a calf being born at 6 a.m. and you don't necessarily plan that to happen, and that if you need a neighbor to come over and give you a hand, that they don't need to be covered by OH&S or workers' comp. So I believe the main questions that have been addressed by the rallies are being addressed in the legislature in the government house to the north of us. So while I support the concerns, I don't believe I would support us getting involved in especially with those concerns being addressed as the main concerns, getting involved in what is probably a rural matter versus an urban matter.
Okay. Alderman Chapman, please.
Your Worship, at this point, with that information coming forward from Alderman Haig, thank you, Alderman Haig. I do have some concerns with Bill 6, but if it is being amended, and if there is consultation with the basically rural community, at this time, until we, for now, if it does come forward that it is not, amended as spoken, at that point, I think we could address it.
So your motion is to file?
Motion is to file.
Excellent. All those in favor? Sorry, Alderman Colson.
I was just going to speak to this, that I would like to see it come back should a more robust public consultation process not happen. Because although they can put through and say we are going to amend this, I want to know where that public consultation process has come from. And I think that as a municipality, we have a great opportunity to leverage our voices and say, we consult the public in every bill and every bylaw that we pass. So I would love to see the same thing mirrored provincially. But
I agree, Alderman Colson, but with that being said, with filing the correspondence, it doesn't mean that we can't take it out of that file if that doesn't happen and proceed at that point, if I'm not mistaken.
Alderman Hunter, sorry.
I did. So I believe we had a letter from people in our rural community that had asked for that letter. I don't think they asked for the letter of support unless detail on what they are. So, my thought is that we put that letter in there, even if it's just a matter of record or a matter of course, that we've been asked to do so by our rural residents.
Okay, and sorry, Barb forwarded, you may not have seen it yet, Alderman Hunter, there was some specific, it pertained to a number of different, it included HUD rates as well, I believe, and different things, but they are looking at those amendments, but they are pressing with the legislation on Bill 6 to include those amendments. And what the minister said yesterday was that they were going to continue to work with farmers and rural individuals, businesses and otherwise that have been impacted by this potential legislation. So, okay, all those in favor of filing the correspondence, please. All those opposed? Myself as well, so 2 opposed. Yeah, so now we have board reports. Alderman Coulson, please.
It's been a long night, Your Worship. I can't think of any at this time.
Not a problem. Alderman Burley.
Wait, yes,
oh, there
I
you
have
go.
one. Just wanted to commend again the Christmas party. Staff did a fabulous job. The planning committee really went above and beyond, and what they put on not only for council but the staff at City Hall as well on Saturday night was great. So job well done.
Thank you, Sharon. Yes, I understood you and Lauren closed down the punch bowl, just from what I understand.
Lauren left much sooner than I did. So. Yeah.
Well, Dorian had to carry him, so that's no reason for that. Alderman Burley, please.
Well, it's still 2 months out. I just wanted to let council know about the Boys and Girls Club Dine for a Difference on February the 27th. It's the night at the Oscars, so I'm hoping that all my council colleagues can be there to support a worthwhile cause.
Excellent, thank you. Alderman Haig.
Thank you, Worship. Had a privilege along with Alderman I guess he was Alderman Burley then, still will say, of attending the lighting of the Tree of Hope, Airdrie Hospice Society, the Festival of Lights. If you wish to contribute to that, you can still do that by going online to Airdrie Hospice and having the opportunity to make a small donation to have a loved one remembered in that way. Also, in speaking and volunteering at the Festival of Lights earlier this, or I guess just before the weekend, they are in need of volunteers for various positions, and they're finding themselves a little bit short. So if you do have some time to take an evening, please contact them and give a little bit of your time if you could. It's a great event, and in this weather, it's very well attended, so that would be much appreciated.
Councillor Haig, why don't we do a council night? I'd be happy to work with you guys and girls. If you want, if you could spare some time, bring my kids. Alderman Hunter.
He's a councillor and I'm an alderman? What's going on here?
It's going to take me a while, I'm sorry.
So through the chair, first, on behalf of Municipal Policing Advisory Board, thank you, and the community thanks us. Just returned from Ottawa from a veterans conference, and it was pretty incredible. So for folks that know, Kent Hare is the Minister for Veterans Affairs. He's also Associate Defence Minister. I had opportunity to meet with generals, lieutenant colonels, and probably one of the most courageous councillors in the country, Jody Minnick, who anybody that doesn't know Jody, was a Canadian sniper, has an awesome book out right now called Unflinching, Making of a Canadian Sniper, lost both of his legs in a roadside bomb, spent 18 months in rehab, put on prosthetic limbs, ran a couple of marathons, and then just became a elected city councillor in the city of Ottawa. Looking forward to, had a great chance to speak with Jody. He's a rookie in the budget talks, and so we've committed to hooking up in FCM in Winnipeg and further that discussion and further some discussions on how to help the veterans and the people that are still serving. So it was an incredible opportunity to meet with so many from across the nation and certainly for Jody. So it was just really a special time, very, very emotional, and we've been able to work on some specific files for individuals that have been fighting for years to get what I would consider automatic treatment and haven't been given that. And so it looks like Minister Hare is going to be the guy that's going to help us change the outcomes for some folks that never should have had to go to war with their government. So that's a pretty incredible opportunity, and I was honored to be part of it.
Thank you for sharing. Alderman Deputy Mayor Bellick, please.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Alderman Chapman.
Your Worship, nothing comes to mind except for the Boys and Girls Club Gala. I have heard they've secured a fairly good couple MCs for that event, so should be a lot of fun.
Are you going to tell us who they are?
All I can say is putting on the Ritz.
Oh, goodness.
Your Worship.
Yes, Alderman
I just
Burley.
had one more thing I'd like to add. I want to congratulate the parade committee for an incredible Santa Claus parade. The crowd was amazing. I'm guessing 8,000 to 10,000 people on the streets.
Yeah, it was hard to beat that.
Santa Claus and the floats, everything was well done. So I want to commend the committee.
I know I talked to Santa Claus. He had a wonderful time. It was fantastic. No, she never talks, and my wife doesn't talk. So sorry, I just want to get to my quickly. I just wanted to say to Paul and his staff, although we don't always agree on everything, and this has been a very tough process for a lot of people. We have a lot of exciting things planned for the future, and I guess I voted against the budget, but I want to tell you I have full confidence in the organization, the people that work here, and I will be out there supporting what the will of council moving forward. Secondly, Lauren, we got significant challenges with the, as Alderman Chapman alluded to, I was there, I talked to you today, we have to do something about the Sierra Springs exit by Tim Hortons turning left. It's lined up past the co-op now. It's becoming an accident area, and it's only getting worse. We were there Sunday, and I was at the furthest end of Rona, pulling out, and I could not turn left because the wall of cars had passed both the car, and I had to actually, which is not an inconvenience for me. I understand how it works, and I can get on the highway and go back to the west, in the northwest there. But for a lot of people, you can see the frustration, and they're usually getting, it depends on the time and the day, but you get 12, 15 cars through. Doesn't make a big impact, and we're sitting on 3. So I'm just hoping that, further to Alderman Chapman's points, that we can either make that a 2-lane left turn and proceed from there, or and I don't know what options are available to us before the bridge is completed at the end of next year, or hopefully the end of next year, where people have other options, because I'm really worried about safety, specifically to that intersection. And I am with you. We're going to write a letter to the province again, trying to beg for some sort of relief at the Boston Pizza intersection. We anticipate, both of us, that will be rejected again, but we're going to try anyway. I'll just put it over to you, and I know this is ongoing for you and your department, so I just wanted to bring it up because residents have asked me to.
Your Worship and Council, just a couple of things. We will be following through on a council report. I believe it is in your package as we've committed it, I believe, to a February return, and we'll certainly come back earlier if we can. And our intention is to have our transportation consultant at that meeting as well, and put forward what our thoughts and options may be related to that. I would also advise Council that we have undertaken, this was probably about 2 weeks ago, a traffic signal test on the Yankee Valley Boulevard coordinator on the corridor, and that does detrimentally impact green time on the side streets, being Main Street, for weekdays, but we have altered one of our sequences there for weekends. I know that I think it has helped, but certainly I know we are still continuing to experience some challenges there. So our staff are still continuing to look at that.
Yeah, and I appreciate it's on the list, but I always think that not everybody reads the list, so I apologize. I know I bring you guys up sometimes, but I understand most of the crowd and people that may be watching haven't read the list, so it's great to know. I appreciate it very much, and I know it's a priority for you and your department. Other than that, I just want to thank you guys, Airdrie Parade and Fireworks Committee. I counted almost 50 volunteers, but I also counted all of our staff in our city trucks who were missing the Christmas party to clean up horse manure and do whatever they had to do that night. And there was a huge presence by the city once again on a weekend evening. And Paul, just want to thank you and the team for making sure people were available, keeping our community safe, even exiting on the roads. The police and the ME did a great job of managing the traffic, and there wasn't an incident from what I understand, and that's a real credit to the organization, the people that work here. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Paul, and get a board update, please.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and we'll be sure to pass that on. Just, do you need to go before me? Okay. Just a couple of things. I received an update in terms of our traffic bylaw review, and we'll need to renegotiate with council into, at the latest, it would be the first meeting in March. They actually have done a reported quite a thorough review, and it's now making its way to the lawyer's office, and so you would see a brand new proposed traffic bylaw before you no later than March 7th council meeting. That's number one. Number two is just Lauren, glad you're promising February because it says March here. But anyway, sorry.
I told you to go home.
I'm done.
Michelle.
Your Worship, with your permission, I would just like to pass along on behalf of the organizers of January, being Random Acts of Kindness and Kindness Month. They have asked that these be passed along as little tokens of kindness to council to pass on or to take one on your own family's behalf. So there's a bunch of little tiny acts of kindness gifts that they'd like you to take some and pass along in January.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Please forward our appreciation. And Sharon, as my first act of kindness, I will not leave a tissue for you to pick up after we're done.
Your Worship, can I just say, for our first act of kindness, if we could pass them out to the people who are still here, because it's so very rare.
It's January.
That we have members of the public here other than staff, so.
Did you check to see what was inside it and didn't like what you saw? Just so it's something.
It wasn't money.
I was concerned it might be chocolate, which you know I love. So, but I think that's a great suggestion, and distribute it over. Stay away from Archie because it's just stuck in the air, and also. The meeting is adjourned, everyone. Thank you very much.